Warrior Lore. Chapter 1320. To the east of Half Moon Island, near the sea, one could hear the continuous sound of waves. Smack, smack, smack. The waves rolled, one after another, slapping against the reefs, producing different sounds. Whoosh! A black light flashed. It was an arrow that was as black as ink that was shot towards the sea. Almost at the same time the arrow was shot out, a purple figure landed on top of it and stepped on the arrow. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at the seaside. A majestic power spread out and dispersed the waves that came crashing over. He stepped on the arrow and flew a few rounds around the sea and the coast before the purple figure slowed down and revealed himself. The person who revealed himself was a purple-clad young man. He was Duan Lingtian. Yuhan Emperor Wu. Looking at the lady standing in the air not far away, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and put away the arrow that he was stepping on. He held the bow in one hand and the arrow in the other. It seemed like this was the only way he could feel safe. This lady was the owner of Yuhan Valley on Cloud Continent, Yuhan Emperor Wu. She was not here earlier. It was obvious that she had just shown herself. Duan Lingtian, you're really bold. You actually dare to come out and cultivate by yourself in this unfamiliar environment. Yuhan Emperor Wu looked at Duan Lingtian calmly and said slowly, I'm not sure if I'm brave or not. However, Yuhan Emperor Wu, you're really patient. 13 days. You only showed yourself after 13 days. Duan Lingtian looked at Yuhan Emperor Wu and clicked his tongue. Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian was done speaking, Yuhan Emperor Wu's expression changed completely. 13 days ago, she noticed that Duan Lingtian had left the residence that the Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island had arranged for him and came here to cultivate his martial skill. He had cultivated for an entire day. At first, she only dared to hide at the side, fearing that it was a trap. After that, day after day, she hid in the dark, secretly observing Duan Lingtian. She also searched everywhere, but she didn't find anyone following Duan Lingtian or protecting Duan Lingtian. Today was the 13th day of her following Duan Lingtian. While Duan Lingtian was cultivating, she searched the surrounding area again, but did not find a third person. At this time, the cautious her finally made a decision. Kill the Duan Lingtian and seize the Duan Lingtian's wealth, which originated from the Emperor Wu of Samsara. Sucking in a breath of cold air, the cold Emperor Wu looked around, thinking that there was a powerful warrior hiding in the dark, warning Duan Lingtian, There's no need to look. I'm the only one here. Duan Lingtian said lightly, Just you? You can find me? The cold Emperor Wu asked in a deep voice as a gleam flashed in her eyes. Do you think you can hide well? Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. I almost forgot. You're the third reincarnation of the reincarnation Emperor Wu. It's not surprising that you have some special techniques. The cold Emperor Wu sized up Duan Lingtian, and her expression softened. Someone saved you on the Hidden Fog Island the last time. You won't be so lucky on Half Moon Island this time. The cold Emperor Wu took out her spirit weapon as she spoke. It was a 3-foot-long spirit sword, a quasi-royal grade spirit sword. She was prepared to attack with all her might and kill Duan Lingtian in the shortest time possible. She was afraid that something would happen if she delayed. It seems like you're very confident in killing me, Emperor Wu. Duan Lingtian took a deep look at Martial Emperor Yuhan and said unhurriedly, Stop trying to be mysterious. The cold Emperor Wu sneered. Her robe fluttered, and she disappeared from where she was. She dashed out with her sword as though she had transformed into a gigantic sword that flew across the sky. Warrior Lord, the gigantic sword exuded a bone-chilling aura that caused the surrounding air to stagnate. The airflow seemed to have solidified. You'll definitely die today. As the cold Emperor Wu spoke, the spirit sword in her hand vibrated, and the surrounding aura became even colder. Heaven and earth wipe out. The cold Emperor Wu performed the most powerful sword skill in the Han Bing's divine sword technique. She attacked with a killer move and aimed for Duan Lingtian's vital point. She wanted to kill Duan Lingtian in one hit. I'll definitely die, he sneered in response. In the face of the cold Emperor Wu's ferocious sword move, he pulled the bowstring on the strong bow in his hand into a full moon. Just as the cold Emperor Wu performed the heaven and earth wipeout, A small dot of light appeared on the tip of the sword and was about to explode with a terrifying chill that froze everything into an ice sculpture and shattered it. Clang! A sound that sounded like muffled thunder resonated. It was Duan Ling Tian releasing the hand that was on the bowstring and pinching the end of the arrow. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the arrow pierced through the air. Its speed was much faster than when he was cultivating alone. Comparing the two, it was obvious that he had been holding back. Body and arrow synchronization. At the same time, Duan Lingtian dashed out and landed on the arrow. The arrow's speed increased, and so did his speed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Almost at the same time that Duan Lingtian shot out the arrow, the small dot of light on the tip of the cold Emperor Wu's sword exploded silently and turned into light dust that filled the air. It whistled and emitted a bone-piercing chill. Duan Lingtian stepped on the arrow and barely dodged the cold Emperor Wu's attack. The air in the void where Duan Lingtian was just now froze and emitted an extremely cold aura. Oh no! The cold Emperor Wu's expression changed drastically. She could see that Duan Lingtian's current speed was much faster than hers. Even if she used the quasi-royal grade spirit sword and performed her movement martial skill to run at full speed, her speed was not as fast as Duan Lingtian's current speed. When she thought about how Duan Lingtian had been hiding in front of her for the past 13 days, and how Duan Lingtian seemed to have known that she was hiding in the dark for the past 13 days, she finally had an ominous feeling in her heart. Since Duan Lingtian already knew that she was hiding in the dark, how could he still maintain his composure? She did not think much about it before, but now that she thought about it, she broke out in cold sweat. Could it be that he has the confidence to defeat me? When she thought of this possibility, the cold Emperor Wu only felt a chill rising from the bottom of her feet to her head. She was so frightened that her face turned pale. Run! The thought continued to grow in her mind. She was so frightened that she no longer dared to hesitate and wanted to escape at the first moment. However, was she able to leave just because she wanted to now? Arrow light strike. A cold voice sounded, accompanied by a short-lived whistling sound. Before she could react, the cold Emperor Wu's body trembled and she let out a muffled groan. From the beginning until the end, the cold Emperor Wu only saw a black light that flashed like lightning. In the next moment, she felt a heart-wrenching pain from the hand that held the sword. A hideous bloody hole appeared on her wrist. The spirit sword in her hand almost fell. Fortunately, she caught it in time with her other hand. Whoosh! Another whistling sound was heard. Before she could react, another bloody hole appeared on the other wrist of the cold Emperor Wu. The spirit sword finally fell from the sky. You were the one who broke my heaven and earth wipeout and saved the profound spirit Emperor Wu that day? Although she had stopped the bleeding on both her wrists, the cold Emperor Wu's face was pale and she did not feel good. She looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief as she questioned him. This person who should have been weak in her eyes was actually more powerful than her? She could not accept this cruel fact. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. It is already your good fortune that the Yuhan Valley could inherit the Frost Emperor Wu's legacy. It is a pity that you did not cherish it. Duan Lingtian said coldly. In his opinion, from the moment the cold Emperor Wu set her eyes on him and tried to plot against him, the cold Emperor Wu's tragedy was destined. At the same time, he placed the arrow in his hand on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring into a full moon again, aiming at the cold Emperor Wu. At this moment, the cold Emperor Wu felt as though she was locked in by something. There was no way out. I am very curious. Why is there such a huge difference between you when you used your spirit weapon and when you did not? The cold Emperor Wu seemed to have realized that she was going to die today. However, she still asked the question in her heart. Even if she was going to die, she wanted to die knowing why. That day, I tested your strength, and that day, you took out your spirit weapon bow and arrow and broke my heaven and earth wipeout. Although I did not use my spirit weapon, the attack power of your arrow was not something that you could have. Because of that, the cold Emperor Wu had never thought that the arrow was shot by Duan Lingtian. Saint-grade martial tactic, Duan Lingtian said unhurriedly. The moment his words left his mouth, Martial Emperor Yuhan's eyes shrunk all of a sudden. Shock filled her face as a bitter smile appeared at the corner of her lips. I see. You've actually cultivated the Saint-grade martial tactic. The cold Emperor Wu had heard of the Saint-grade martial tactic before. It was an existence that was above heaven-class advanced martial skills. It was extremely powerful. My defeat is not unjustified. The cold Emperor Wu gasped. Last question. What's your cultivation base now? Emperor Wu Stage 3. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he released the arrow in his hand. Not only did he release the arrow, but he also released the bowstring that held the arrow, granting the arrow absolute freedom. Arrow-light strike. The arrow shot out again. Blood spurted out and pierced through the cold Emperor Wu's chest, killing him instantly. The cold Emperor Wu, one of the top 3 Emperor Wu on the surface of Cloud Continent, had died just like that. First, it was the Thunder Emperor Wu, then it was the Cold Emperor Wu. 2 of the top 3 Emperor Wu on the surface of Cloud Continent had died in the hands of Duan Lingtian. After the body and arrow synchronization entered the fundamental awareness stage, my speed has indeed increased to another level. With the Emperor Wu's cultivation base at the 3rd level realm and the sword concept that had broken through again, it was not difficult for me to kill the Cold Emperor Wu. After putting away the Cold Emperor Wu's spatial ring and profundity fragment, Duan Lingtian stood in the air and recalled the earlier scene as he muttered to himself. Half a month later, it'll be time for me to meet the island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong. Soon, Duan Lingtian snapped back to his senses. It had been 2.5 months since he arrived at Half Moon Island. When he first arrived, he knew that he would only be able to meet the island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, after 3 months. Chapter 1321. Half a month ago, Duan Lingtian had already stayed on Half Moon Island for 2 months. He did not slack off at all during these 2 months. Apart from his cultivation base that had successfully entered the 3rd level of Emperor Wu stage and comprehended the 6th level Emperor stage sword profundity, he had also successfully cultivated the body and arrow synchronization from the Saint-grade martial tactic, Colossal Arrow-light Arrow, to the beginner stage. He had also made great progress in the arrow-light strike. According to Wang Ba's estimation, he was not far from the elementary stage. The Saint-grade martial tactics techniques were divided into 5 stages: first glimpse at the door, slight accomplishment, next level mastery, familiarity, perfection. The difference between each stage was like heaven and earth. Apart from that, Duan Lingtian tried to cultivate the other 2 offensive techniques in Colossal Arrow-light Arrow, Arrow-light Shower, and Sound of Death. Although he had not cultivated the 2 to the beginner stage, he could already use them. With his current ability, Duan Lingtian easily killed Yuhan Emperor Wu, the owner of Yuhan Valley on Cloud Continent. He was ranked in the top 3 among the Emperor Wu powerhouses on Cloud Continent. After killing Yuhan Emperor Wu and collecting his loot, Duan Lingtian did not continue cultivating and was ready to return. However, he heard a series of noises coming from afar as he was on his way back. It seemed like someone was fighting. Let's go take a look. Since he had nothing to do, Duan Lingtian went to the source of the noises to watch the show. I wonder who's fighting. It's quite a commotion. The noises were getting closer and closer. Soon, 2 people appeared before Duan Lingtian. Boom, 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 boom. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky, forming a lightning net that enveloped them, causing one of them to be in an extremely sorry state. Many parts of his robe were charred by the lightning. Wang Yu. With just one look, Duan Lingtian recognized the owner of the battered figure. It was the direct disciple of Qing Xian's Emperor Wu, Wang Yu, that alien who possessed the innate ability to attack souls. He still remembered. Previously, when they were on the Hidden Fog Island, he and Wang Yu had competed for the first place in the Hidden Fog martial competition. At that time, he had relied on the Saint-grade martial tactic, Colossal Arrow-light Arrow, and his spiritual energy to break through Wang Yu's innate divine ability and defeat Wang Yu. In that battle, until now, no one could figure out how he was able to break Wang Yu's innate ability with one arrow. Is that a Dao cultivator? Soon, Duan Lingtian's eyes fell on Wang Yu's opponent. It was a young man in green. He stood there with his hands wide open. As he moved, bolts of lightning struck down from the sky, using the power of heaven and earth and the power of nature against the enemy. Is this the technique of a Tao cultivator? Duan Lingtian exclaimed. Wang Yu is finally not holding back. When he saw a black lotus appearing and heading straight for the young man in green, Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Wang Yu had finally used his trump card. Until now, Duan Lingtian could tell, Wang Yu was completely restrained by the lightning bolts that his opponent had attracted. He could not find a chance to attack his opponent at close range. If this continued, he would definitely lose. Boom. However, when the black lotus was still halfway, it was blocked by a golden light that swept past at a rapid speed. In the blink of an eye, the black lotus destroyed the golden light and continued to sweep toward the young man in green without slowing down. At this moment, the second, third, and fourth golden lights appeared one after another. They swept across the sky and headed straight for the black lotus. It was as though they would not stop until they destroyed it. Spiritual energy attack? Duan Lingtian could tell that this was the spiritual energy attack that the Tao cultivator had cast. It was also a soul attack. Although it could not destroy Wang Yu's innate ability, the Black Lotus, the continuous soul attack had depleted most of the Black Lotus's energy. It was no longer as powerful as before. In the end, the Black Lotus entered his body. However, his body merely trembled, and he was not affected. This Tao cultivator's spiritual energy is very strong. He's at least at the 4th level of the Emperor Wu stage. Duan Lingtian could tell what was going on. It was because of this that the Tao cultivator could continuously use his spiritual energy attack to offset most of the energy from the Black Lotus, causing the Black Lotus to be unable to enter his body. At this moment, the Black Lotus was no longer able to harm his soul, let alone destroy it. How's this possible? Wang Yu's expression changed drastically. He did not expect that his innate divine ability, which had always been successful in the past, would fail twice in a row. First, it was destroyed by Duan Lingtian. Today, it was destroyed by this Tao cultivator. Invincible innate ability? That's all there is to it. If I'm not mistaken, you're the most outstanding direct disciple of the strongest person on Cloud Continent? The Tao cultivator of unknown origin said disdainfully, "It seems like you people from Cloud Continent are all a bunch of trash." Huh. Duan Lingtian frowned, and his expression darkened. Seeing that Wang Yu's aura was weakening and that he would die in this Tao cultivator's hands soon, Duan Lingtian was finally prepared to intervene. Putting aside the fact that Wang Yu was the direct disciple of Qing Xian's Emperor Wu and that Xuan'ai was acquainted with Qing Xian's Emperor Wu, he could not just stand by and watch. Even the words of this Tao cultivator had enraged him. People from Cloud Continent? Trash? He, Duan Lingtian, was from Cloud Continent. Trash? Let's see. Whoosh. A short-lived, ear-piercing sound of wind whistling tore through the sky and alerted Wang Yu and the green-clad young man. Before the two of them could react, the air vibrated and streaks of light swept down from all directions, emitting a piercing sound. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sky was filled with arrows raining down like a meteor shower. Everywhere they passed, the void vibrated. At the same time, they destroyed the streaks of lightning. Puff. The destruction of the lightning also meant that the green-clad young man's Tao technique was destroyed. As expected, he suffered a backlash. His body trembled, and his face turned pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Who's there? The green-clad young man's expression changed drastically. He shouted sternly as he stared in Wang Yu's direction. Whoosh! At this moment, Duan Lingtian appeared in front of Wang Yu. He looked at the green-clad young man calmly and said nonchalantly, "Tao cultivator? That's all there is to it." Duan Lingtian. Wang Yu's eyes lit up when he saw Duan Lingtian. He immediately thanked him. At the same time, he sighed in relief. He knew that his life was saved. Duan Lingtian? At this moment, the Tao cultivator also heard Wang Yu's words. His eyes narrowed. You're the person who won first place in the Hidden Fog martial competition? It was obvious that he had heard of Duan Lingtian's name. Not only did he win first place in the Hidden Fog martial competition, but he's also from Cloud Continent. The trash that you mentioned. Before Duan Lingtian could reply, Wang Yu had already mocked him. Since you said that people from Cloud Continent are trash, I'm sure you don't mind fighting with trash like me, right? Duan Lingtian's eyes remained calm. However, if you lose, you're worse than trash. The green-clad young man's face turned pale as Duan Lingtian stared at him. He recalled the scene earlier. The arrows that rained down from the sky had easily broken his Dao technique. He knew very well that the person before him was more powerful than him. Oomph! The green-clad young man snorted coldly. He wanted to retreat. However, before he left, he took a good look at Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, you're the first place in the Hidden Fog martial competition. Your opponent should be the first place in our choral martial competition. When I return, I'll tell senior brother Luo about your provocation to our coral island. Just you wait. It won't be long before senior brother Luo comes to visit you. The green-clad young man emphasized the word visit when he reached the end of his sentence. It was obvious that he was trying to create a conflict between Duan Lingtian and the senior brother Luo he mentioned. The senior brother Luo you mentioned is the first place in the choral martial competition? Duan Lingtian asked nonchalantly. He did not care if the green-clad young man was trying to create a conflict. That's right. The green-clad young man looked proud. Is he a Dao cultivator like you? Duan Lingtian asked again. Yes. Why do you ask? The green-clad young man asked with a frown. If he's not a Dao cultivator, I'll have to make you stay and ask for advice. There are no Dao cultivators on Cloud Continent, and I've long wanted to find a Dao cultivator to spar with. Duan Lingtian's eyes gleamed as he grinned. However, since the senior brother Luo you mentioned is also a Dao cultivator, I'm not interested in you anymore. After all, you're too weak. I won't feel any sense of accomplishment if I defeat you. The green-clad young man's expression changed when he was looked down upon by Duan Lingtian. He said in a deep voice, Don't worry. Senior brother Luo will fulfill your wish. I only hope that you'll still be able to smile by then. After the green-clad young man finished speaking, he turned around and left. When he left, his figure was faintly discernible. His surroundings were filled with gusts of green wind, as though he was walking with the wind. First, it's the thunder summoning technique, and now it's the wind riding technique. Dao techniques are really different from martial skills. Duan Lingtian muttered when he saw this. Duan Lingtian, I've heard of the person who ranked first in the Coral Island martial competition. His name is Luo Fengzhu, and he's the direct disciple of the first island master of Coral Island. His strength is not inferior to most of the Coral Island elders. Wang Yu said, Moreover, apart from the Coral Island disciples, many people from the Red Lotus continent near Coral Island also participated in the martial competition that was held on Coral Island. You can imagine Luo Fengzhu's strength if he's able to obtain first place in the martial competition. You must be prepared. Wang Yu reminded Duan Lingtian when he saw the battle intent in his eyes. Don't worry. Duan Lingtian nodded as his eyes gleamed brightly. Chapter 1322. Duan Lingtian, what martial skill did you use earlier? Although it's not as good as the arrow you used to break my innate ability, it's still much more powerful than the heaven rank advanced offensive martial skill that I cultivated. You must know that my martial skill has already been cultivated to the perfection stage. On the way back, Wang Yu could not help but ask Duan Lingtian. Just now, the arrows that fell like a meteor shower, his heart was still filled with shock when he thought about it. He felt that the martial skill that Duan Lingtian cultivated was much more powerful than the martial skill that he cultivated. The two of them were not on the same level at all. In the face of Wang Yu's question, Duan Lingtian smiled and said nothing. He knew very well. The reason why Wang Yu asked this was because he did not know about the existence of the Saint-grade martial tactic. Even though I haven't cultivated the aerolite shower to the fundamental awareness stage, it's still quite powerful. With the help of the Royal Grade Spirit Archery set and my current strength, I was able to easily break through the Dao technique of the Dao cultivator who was at the 4th level Martial Emperor stage. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat when he recalled the scene earlier. The only defensive technique in the Colossal Aerolite Arrow, the Colossal Aerobell, requires me to cultivate the aerolite shower to the impeccable stage before I can start cultivating it. I must not fall behind on the aerolite shower when I cultivate it in the future. Duan Lingtian secretly made up his mind. The conversation with Han Shu and I earlier made him realize that the most powerful technique in the colossal aerolite arrow that he cultivated was the defensive technique, the colossal arrow bell. After all, he needed to cultivate the other technique to the impeccable stage before he could cultivate the colossal arrow bell. The impeccable stage was the highest stage of the Saint-grade martial tactic. The technique that was cultivated on this foundation would naturally be extraordinary. According to Han Shu and I, it could even be compared to the techniques in the Earth-rank Saint-grade martial tactic. Duan Lingtian parted ways with Wang Yu when they returned to Half Moon Island, where the people from Hidden Fog Island were staying. When they parted ways, Wang Yu once again expressed his gratitude to Duan Lingtian. If Duan Lingtian had not appeared in time, he would have died in the hands of the Dao cultivator from the Coral Island. The people from the Hidden Fog Island stayed in a huge mansion that occupied a vast area. Duan Lingtian stayed in a mansion within the huge mansion. He was not the only one who lived in the residence. In addition to the two little girls, Han Shu and I, and the three little guys also lived here. When he returned, Duan Lingtian found that they were all cultivating, so he did not disturb them. He went back to his room and sat cross-legged on his bed to cultivate. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, divine dragon transformation. While he was cultivating, Duan Lingtian's heart jolted. I heard from Xuan Ai that, once I break through to the mortal shedding stage, there will be some changes to my cultivation method. I wonder what kind of changes will happen to my 9 dragons war sovereign technique at that time. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Xuan Ai also said, apart from innate talent, the cultivation method is also important for martial and Dao cultivators on the mortal shedding stage to open the hidden saint veins in their bodies. I wonder how many saint meridians my 9 dragons war sovereign technique can help me open. As he thought about this, Duan Lingtian looked forward to the day he would break through to the mortal shedding stage. He wanted to know how many saint veins he could open. Duan Lingtian. After closing his eyes to cultivate for a while, Duan Lingtian heard a voice coming from outside before he had even sat down for a while. You're here so soon? Duan Lingtian opened his eyes and revealed a surprised expression. He could tell who it was. The voice belonged to the Coral Island Dao cultivator who almost killed Wang Yu earlier. After he walked out of the room, Duan Lingtian noticed that Li Fei, Han Shu and I, and the 3 little fellows had also been awakened by the voice. They walked out of the room one by one. Young master, scoundrel, brother. The 2 little girls and the 3 little fellows looked at Duan Lingtian in unison with expressions of worry. Brother Lingtian, do you know who's calling you? Judging from the voice, it seems like he's not friendly. Why don't I go and kill him? Han Shu and I said to Duan Lingtian. The little devil's elegance was apparent at a glance. There's no need for that. He's just a small fry. Duan Lingtian shook his head and rose into the air, heading toward the source of the voice. Han Shu and I immediately followed. She loved to join in the fun. The 2 girls and the 3 little fellows followed as well. Duan Lingtian came to a halt in the sky as he faced the 2 young men. The one standing in front of the 2 young men was dressed in green. His long brown hair fluttered in the wind like tiny pythons that kept twisting. As he stood there, he gave off a cold and sinister aura, as if he was a venomous snake lying dormant in the dark. Behind him was another young man in green. The young man in green was the person who almost killed Wang Yu not long ago. He was the Coral Island Dao cultivator. The identity of the young man in green was obvious. Luo Fengju. He was the person who won first place in the Coral Island martial arts competition not long ago. He was a powerful Dao cultivator. Duan Lingtian. Soon, Wang Yu arrived as well. The people from the Hidden Fog Island appeared one after another. Soon, apart from the first and third island masters of the Hidden Fog Island, almost everyone had arrived. First place in the Hidden Fog martial arts competition, Duan Lingtian. Luo Fengju finally spoke. His voice was cold and emotionless. First place in the Coral Island martial arts competition, Luo Fengju. Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged as he faced Luo Fengju. He asked in a neither fast nor slow manner. Luo Fengju? He's Luo Fengju? The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, many of the Hidden Fog Island's disciples had a slight change in their expressions. Do you know him? The people from the Cloud Continent looked at the group of Hidden Fog Island's disciples in confusion. Luo Fengzhu is the direct disciple of the first island master of the Coral Island. His ability is stronger than most of the Coral Island's elders. According to Duan Lingtian, he must have won first place in the Coral Island martial arts competition not long ago. With Luo Fengzhu's ability, it's not strange for him to win first place in the Coral Island martial arts competition. However, Duan Lingtian is from the Cloud Continent while Luo Fengzhu is from the Coral Island. Why would they have a conflict? Many of the Hidden Fog Island's disciples whispered among themselves. At this moment, the people from the Cloud Continent finally regained their senses and found out about Luo Fengzhu's identity. He was the direct disciple of the first island master of the Coral Island. He won first place in the Coral Island martial arts competition. As for the Coral Island, most of them had never heard of it before. However, it was easy for them to guess that it was one of the 4 overseas Saint Islands. According to Lin Tai, you said that the Coral Island's disciples are trash? Luo Fengzhu stared at Duan Lingtian as his eyes gleamed coldly. The Lin Tai he mentioned was obviously the green-clad young man behind him, the Coral Island's Dao cultivator who had fled from Duan Lingtian not long ago. An uproar broke out as soon as Luo Fengzhu was done speaking. Duan Lingtian dares to provoke the Coral Island like that? No wonder Luo Fengzhu came with ill intentions. Many people discussed among themselves. Only a minority of them believed Duan Lingtian. They thought it was impossible for Duan Lingtian to say something like that. Wang Yu's expression changed. Although he was prepared for Lin Tai's intention to create a conflict between Duan Lingtian and Luo Fengzhu, he did not expect Lin Tai to accuse him. It was Lin Tai who looked down on the people from the Cloud Continent and said they were trash. Now, he actually said that Duan Lingtian said the Coral Island's disciples were trash. Everything that was white was black because of him. When Wang Yu was about to explain himself, Duan Lingtian stopped him. After stopping Wang Yu, Duan Lingtian looked at Luo Fengzhu and said nonchalantly, "So what if I did?" The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, those who did not believe Duan Lingtian were stunned. "Since you've admitted it, I'd like to see what you're capable of. What right do you have to say my Coral Island's disciples are trash?" Luo Fengzhu's eyes gleamed coldly as he shouted. At the same time, his body moved as though he was being blown by the wind toward Duan Lingtian. He was using his Dao technique to travel with the wind. His speed was not inferior to Gloomy Emperor Wu, who was killed by Duan Lingtian not long ago. When Luo Fengzhu made his move, everyone's eyes focused on him. Brother Lingtian, Spirit Profound Emperor Wu had a grave expression on his face. Based on Luo Fengzhu's speed, he could tell he was no match for Luo Fengzhu. Although he wanted to help Duan Lingtian, there was nothing he could do. If he went up now, he would only be a burden to Duan Lingtian. Qing Xin Emperor Wu originally wanted to help Duan Lingtian. However, when he saw Han Xuanai's calm expression, he dismissed the idea. Does Miss Xuanai have confidence in Duan Lingtian? Qing Xin Emperor Wu thought to himself. He could tell Luo Fengzhu's speed was not inferior to Thunder Emperor Wu and Gloomy Emperor Wu, who were ranked below him in terms of strength on Cloud Continent. With such speed, Luo Fengzhu's strength was definitely not weak. He might even be stronger than Thunder Emperor Wu and Gloomy Emperor Wu. Would Duan Lingtian be a match for such an existence? He was deeply skeptical. However, when he saw Duan Lingtian took out a bow and an arrow at lightning speed, he could not help but feel shocked when he saw Duan Lingtian stepping on the arrow as he shot out. How is this possible? His speed is actually... Qing Xin Emperor Wu realized that Duan Lingtian's speed was not inferior to Luo Fengzhu's. Body and arrow synchronization. In the face of Luo Fengzhu, who was rushing toward him, Duan Lingtian immediately used a movement technique from the colossal light arrow to avoid him. Seeing Duan Lingtian's speed, Luo Fengzhu's eyes were filled with surprise. His arms suddenly shook and swept out like a dragon, shaking the void. In an instant, blue water dragons appeared out of thin air around Duan Lingtian, who was dozens of meters away. The divine dragons that were completely made of water swept over from all directions toward Duan Lingtian. They forced Duan Lingtian to the point that he had no choice but to face them head-on. However, Would Duan Lingtian let Luo Fengzhu lead him by the nose? The answer was no. Arrow light strike. Chapter 1323. Whoosh. The arrow shot out like a falling meteor and collided with one of the water dragons. From the beginning to the end, it shattered the water dragon as though it was breaking a dead branch. For a moment, a gap appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. Body and arrow synchronization. Another arrow was shot out. Duan Lingtian landed on the arrow and escaped through the gap. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as Duan Lingtian escaped, the water dragons that filled the sky rushed toward the place where he was standing. They collided with each other and created a series of deafening noises. At the same time, waves of shockwaves swept out and spread out, sending those with a lower cultivation base flying. Shooting star arrow hail. After Duan Lingtian escaped, he looked at Luo Fengzhu coldly. With a raise of his hand, the bowstring was drawn to a full moon before another arrow was shot out. This time, the arrow was aimed at the top of Luo Fengzhu's head. In a flash, the arrows that filled the sky fell like a meteor shower. Luo Fengzhu had nowhere to hide. Shooting star arrow hail. Insignificant skill. Luo Fengzhu shouted in a low voice. The green robe on his body shook, and solidified arrows that were completely made of water appeared in the air. Go! Following Luo Fengzhu's shout, arrows made of water flew out and blocked the arrows that were falling from the sky. One arrow against one arrow. In just a blink of an eye, Luo Fengzhu had blocked Duan Lingtian's attack. I was wondering, how is it possible for him to cast such a powerful attack and display such a fast speed without using any external force? As it turns out, the green robe on his body is a spirit weapon. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes. He could tell that the green robe on Luo Fengzhu was not simple. Luo Fengzhu's strength and speed were boosted by the green robe. No wonder you dare to say that the Coral Islands disciples are trash. You do have some strength. However, it's time for this to end. As Luo Fengzhu spoke unhurriedly, his eyes flashed. Then, he disappeared from where he stood. Whoosh! Luo Fengzhu was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was near Duan Lingtian. However, he did not rush towards the Duan Lingtian. Instead, he circled around the Duan Lingtian and moved faster and faster, dazzling the onlookers. What is he trying to do? Many people present were at a loss. They did not know what Luo Fengzhu was up to. Duan Lingtian, who was at the center of it all, had a grave expression on his face. This was Luo Fengzhu's goal. At this moment, he could clearly sense the instability of the airflow in the air. Traces of sharp aura were constantly growing stronger. It's wind. Soon, Duan Lingtian guessed what Luo Fengzhu was doing. He's borrowing the wind. After guessing Luo Fengzhu's intention, Duan Lingtian raised his hand and shot another arrow. He used body and arrow synchronization in an attempt to escape from Luo Fengzhu's encirclement. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian moved with the arrow at a very fast speed. From afar, Duan Lingtian should have been happy that he was about to break out of the encirclement. However, his expression changed abruptly. Oh no! Almost in an instant, numerous solidified green wind blades appeared out of thin air in front of Duan Lingtian. They tore through the sky and headed straight for him. The numerous wind blades seemed as if they wanted to mince Duan Lingtian to death. This Dao technique is too strange. At this moment, Duan Lingtian deeply felt the terror of a Dao cultivator. The Dao technique cast by a Dao cultivator was impossible to guard against. The wind blades that filled the sky swept toward Duan Lingtian and arrived in front of Duan Lingtian in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Duan Lingtian did not have time to retrieve his arrow. Oh no! Yang Hui's expression changed drastically. He could see that Duan Lingtian was in danger. Ke and Li Fei's expressions changed as well. Brother Lingtian, Hanshu and I, who originally wanted to make a move, dismissed the idea when she saw Duan Lingtian's expression had calmed down. She believed in her brother Lingtian. Clang, 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 clang. Almost everyone's hearts were in their mouths when they thought Duan Lingtian was about to be killed by the wind blades controlled by Luo Fengzhu. At this moment, An ear-piercing sound that was unpleasant to the ear resonated in the air. The sound was deafening and sounded almost at the same time. Pooh! Barf! Instantly, some spectators with low cultivations were shaken to the point their internal organs trembled, and a sweetness arose from their throats, causing them to be unable to refrain from spitting out mouthfuls of dazzling and resplendent blood. Sound of the yellow springs. Duan Lingtian's eyes were cold. With a flick of his fingers, the bowstring in his hand vibrated. It sounded like the sound of a zither. However, the sound of the zither was unpleasant to the ears. Although the sound was unpleasant to the ears, it was not weak at all. In just a blink of an eye, the bowstring in Duan Lingtian's hand shot out a solid arc of light with every flick of his fingers. Duan Lingtian's movements were very fast. The arcs of light shot out one after another toward the wind blades that were coming at him. In just a blink of an eye, a series of dull sounds that were accompanied by waves of air swept out. The arcs of light shot out from Duan Lingtian's bowstring with every flick of his fingers blocked the wind blades that were coming at him. How's this possible? Luo Fengzhu's expression changed drastically. He did not expect this to happen at all. In his opinion, since Duan Lingtian was adept in long-range attacks with the bow and arrow, then by right, close combat should be his weakness. Due to this reason, he decided to cast a Dao art to condense wind blades and launch a surprise attack. He believed Duan Lingtian would not be able to use the bow and arrow in his hand in time under his attack. However, he did not expect Duan Lingtian was not only strong in long-range attacks, but he was also strong in close combat. With the help of the bowstring, it was as though he had the help of God. You're right. It's time for all of this to end. Luo Fengzhu's expression changed drastically as he was shocked by Duan Lingtian's close combat ability. At this moment, the arrow that appeared out of nowhere in his hand shot out again. Body and arrow synchronization. Duan Lingtian shot out with the arrow at an increasing speed. In just a blink of an eye, he was close to Luo Fengzhu. At this moment, Luo Fengzhu finally regained his senses. Water wall. Luo Fengzhu grunted with a solemn expression. A wall appeared out of thin air in front of him. To be more precise, it was a water wall. The water wall was completely made of water. It formed a layer of defense in front of Luo Fengzhu. Boom! Duan Lingtian crashed into the water wall with the arrow. However, the water wall only trembled slightly. It was not destroyed. Interesting. As Duan Lingtian muttered to himself, he stepped on the arrow and shot up into the sky. At the same time, another arrow appeared in his hand. He knocked the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring into the shape of a full moon in the blink of an eye. Duan Lingtian looked down at his feet. He only let go of the arrow after the arrowhead was aimed at Luo Fengzhu's head. Falling star strike. In an instant, the arrow fell from the sky like a falling meteorite. It rolled with a vast force. When Duan Lingtian shot out the arrow, the water wall in front of Luo Fengzhu had already shifted to the void above his head to protect him. Whoosh! The arrow fell and crashed into the water wall in the blink of an eye. Boom! With a loud bang, the water wall shook. Ripples appeared on the water wall. It was a mess. Boom! Another loud sound was heard. This time, the power of the arrow shattered the water wall as if it was made of rotten wood. Then, it continued to pierce Luo Fengzhu's head without slowing down at all. Luo Fengzhu would definitely die if the arrow hit him. Although the water wall had blocked most of the arrow's force, it would not be difficult for it to kill Luo Fengzhu. Just when Luo Fengzhu's expression changed drastically and despair appeared in his eyes. At the critical moment, when the arrow was only a few feet away from Luo Fengzhu, a layer of fiery red barrier appeared above his head out of nowhere. This layer of barrier was formed by flames. It emitted a scorching aura as though it could burn everything. Chi, chi, chi. The arrow fell and slammed into the barrier formed by the flames. However, it only created sparks on the barrier. It didn't even shake the barrier in the slightest. Who's that? Duan Lingtian's face went grim, and with a raise of his hand, he withdrew the arrow that had completely exhausted its strength within the inscription formation, and his eyes were suffused with dense coldness. Whoosh! Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, A gray-clad old man appeared in front of Duan Lingtian as though a gust of wind had blown past. He looked at Duan Lingtian calmly. "Young man, you should be lenient when possible." The gray-clad old man glanced at Duan Lingtian and said nonchalantly. From the beginning until the end, the gray-clad old man's expression did not change at all. However, when he looked at Duan Lingtian, there was a hint of disdain in his eyes. It was a disdain that came from the bottom of his heart. "Master! First Island Master!" Just when Han Shuanai and the others' expressions changed, Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai bowed at the old man one after another. Their tone was extremely respectful. The gray-clad old man's identity was obvious. The First Island Master of Coral Island. The old one came after the young one. Interesting. When Duan Lingtian saw the First Island Master of Coral Island, he knew he would not be able to kill Luo Fengzhu today. He could not help but mock in a deep voice. "Fengzhu, what's going on?" The First Island Master of Coral Island asked in a deep voice as his eyes gleamed coldly. He had rushed over when he heard that Luo Fengzhu was here. He had no idea what had happened in between. "First Island Master," he said, "our Coral Island's disciples are trash." Senior brother Luo was so angry that he came to settle the score with him. Before Luo Fengzhu could speak, Lin Tai hurriedly said, "He said our Coral Island's disciples are trash?" Upon hearing Lin Tai's words, the First Island Master of Coral Island's expression changed. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, his gaze was cold. It was extremely cold. "You're slandering us." Duan Lingtian never said that. Wang Yu, who was watching from the side, realized the severity of the situation. He glared at Lin Tai and shouted. However, Lin Tai ignored him. The First Island Master of Coral Island ignored him even more. On one hand, it was a stranger. On the other hand, it was his Coral Island's disciples. Naturally, he was more inclined to believe the latter. What? The great First Island Master of Coral Island wants to make a move on me? Chapter 1324. With your strength, it won't be difficult for you to kill Fengzhu. Since you showed mercy in the beginning, I'll give you a chance. The First Island Master of Coral Island looked at Duan Lingtian calmly as he spoke slowly. However, he paused when he reached the end of his sentence. At this moment, he was like a judge of life and death looking down at a person whose life and death he could judge. Show mercy? When Duan Lingtian heard the First Island Master of Coral Island's words, he sneered inwardly. In the beginning, the reason he did not use his full strength was because he wanted to compete with the Tao Cultivator. He did not intend to show mercy. If he was not curious about the Tao Cultivator, Luo Fengzhu would have been a corpse. Although Luo Fengzhu was powerful and was not inferior to the Spirit Orchid Emperor Wu, he was easily killed by the Spirit Orchid Emperor. However, not long ago, Martial Emperor Yulan had been easily killed by him. This Coral Island disciple, Luo Fengzhu, who was not much stronger than Martial Emperor Yulan, naturally could not withstand more than a few moves from him. Naturally, he would have to use his full strength without holding back. When he fought with Luo Fengzhu earlier, he was not in a hurry to use his full strength because he wanted to gain a better understanding of the Tao Cultivator's Tao technique. It was only later when he shot up into the sky that he unleashed his full strength with the last arrow. When he unleashed his full strength with the meteorite strike from the colossal aerolite arrow, he easily destroyed the defensive Tao technique that Luo Fengzhu cast. He was only a hair's breadth away from killing Luo Fengzhu. This was because the First Island Master of Coral Island appeared at the critical moment and saved Luo Fengzhu. You kill yourself. The First Island Master of Coral Island paused for a moment before he continued. This way, you'll still have a complete corpse. Otherwise, once I make my move, you'll definitely die without a complete corpse. It was apparent that the chance he mentioned was for Duan Lingtian to kill himself. The moment the First Island Master of Coral Island finished speaking, apart from Han Shuanai and the three little fellows, the people from the Hidden Fog Island who were watching, including Kerr and Li Fei, had a change of expression. Suicide? Those who were close to Duan Lingtian had a grave expression on their faces. Suicide? Hearing the words of the Coral Island's First Island Master, Duan Lingtian was taken aback at first, but then he could not help but smile brilliantly. What are you laughing at? The Coral Island's first island master's face sank, killing intent bursting out from his eyes. His robes fluttered despite the absence of wind, as if he could attack at any moment. I am laughing at your naivety. You even interfered when I killed Luo Fengzhu, the person who ranked first in the Coral Martial competition. Do you think Island Master Tang won't interfere if you try to kill me, the person who ranked first in the Hidden Fog Martial competition? Now, Duan Lingtian was looking at the first Island Master, as if he was looking at an idiot. After arriving at Half Moon Island, the person who was most likely to become the direct disciple of the Island Master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, was undoubtedly the champion of the 3 overseas Saint Islands martial competition. He was one of them. On the other hand, the 3 overseas Saint Islands were so eager to help Di Yong, the Island Master of Half Moon Island, find a suitable candidate for his personal disciple. They had even paid a lot of Saint Stones for this. He definitely wouldn't believe that they wouldn't get any benefits. Tang Zhan, the first Island Master of Coral Island, frowned. He just remembered that he was currently in the sky above the Hidden Fog Island people's lodging that Half Moon Island had arranged for them. At that moment, a cold gleam shot out from his eyes. He made up his mind. He had to kill Duan Lingtian before Tang Zhan, the Island Master of Hidden Fog Island, appeared. Whoosh! Just as the first Island Master of Coral Island made up his mind, a gust of wind blew past. A figure appeared in front of Duan Lingtian. It was an old figure. Lu Zhong. The person who appeared was none other than Tang Zhan, the Island Master of Hidden Fog Island. After he appeared, he stared coldly at the first Island Master of Coral Island, Lu Zhong. Lu Zhong's face darkened when he saw Tang Zhan appearing at this moment. He knew that since Tang Zhan had appeared, he could no longer kill Duan Lingtian. Lu Zhong snorted coldly and called out to Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai, "Let's go." As he spoke, he brought Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai with him and prepared to leave. From the beginning until the end, Tang Zhan did not say anything. He only appeared to protect Duan Lingtian. Now that Duan Lingtian was fine, there was no need for him to get into a conflict with Lu Zhong. Both of their strengths were on par with each other. It would not benefit anyone if they got into a conflict. Stop right there. However, although Tang Zhan was willing to let Lu Zhong leave, someone else was not. As an indifferent voice resonated, Lu Zhong brought Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai to a halt. The 3 of them turned around in unison and looked in the direction of the voice. A young girl was standing there. She was dressed in yellow and looked like she was only 15 or 16 years old. Xuanai. Duan Lingtian looked at Han Xuanai and said to her through voice transmission, "Xuanai, let him go. I'm afraid his strength is not inferior to Tang Zhan's. If he cultivates a saint-grade martial tactic, you might not be a match for him." Although he wanted to tear Lu Zhong into pieces, he knew he did not have the strength to do so yet. He would remember today's incident in his heart. If he was stronger than Lu Zhong one day in the future, he would look for Lu Zhong to settle today's score. 10 years was not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Due to this reason, he was very calm. Han Xuanai did not reply to Duan Lingtian. She slowly stepped forward and faced Lu Zhong and the other 2 people. "Little girl, don't think you can act presumptuously in front of me just because Tang Zhan is backing you up. If you anger me, even Tang Zhan won't be able to protect you," Lu Zhong said in a deep voice as he looked at Han Xuanai. His tone was cold as he spoke. Tang Zhan's expression darkened as he glared at Lu Zhong. Han Xuanai glanced at Lu Zhong indifferently and said coldly, "You're thinking too much. I don't need anyone to back me up." "You don't need anyone to back you up?" Lu Zhong was stunned before he sneered. "I'm curious. Where did you get your confidence from? How dare you provoke me? I'll give you a chance. Kill yourself. Otherwise, I'll make sure you don't have a complete corpse." Han Xuanai spoke slowly and repeated the words that Lu Zhong said to Duan Lingtian. It was obvious that she wanted to stand up for Duan Lingtian. "You want me to kill myself? Otherwise, you'll make sure I don't have a complete corpse?" Lu Zhong was stunned when he heard Han Xuanai's words. Then, he could not help but laugh. Even Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai, who were following behind Lu Zhong, looked at Han Xuanai with a mocking smile. They thought that Han Xuanai was crazy. In their opinion, only a lunatic could say such things to the first Island Master of Coral Island. As soon as Han Xuanai said that, apart from Duan Lingtian, Kerr, Li Fei, the three little ones, and Qing Xian's Emperor Wu. The rest of them thought that Han Xuan'ai was purposely provoking Lu Zhong. They did not think that Han Xuan'ai had the ability to make Lu Zhong die without a complete corpse. They thought that Han Xuan'ai said that to stand up for Duan Lingtian. Even Tang Zhan, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, thought the same. From now on, I'll only give you 3 breaths of time. Kill yourself or die without a complete corpse. Han Xuan'ai continued. Her voice was as cold as before. 3 breaths of time? Very good. Now, there are only 2 breaths of time left. I, Lu Zhong, would like to see how a little girl like you is going to make sure I don't have a complete corpse. Lu Zhong looked at Han Xuan'ai from head to toe. Other than disdain, there was only contempt in his eyes. In his eyes, Han Xuan'ai was just a little girl who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. She was not a threat to him at all. There's still 1 breath of time left. Another breath of time passed. Lu Zhong took the initiative to remind Han Xuan'ai. His eyes were filled with mockery. He was waiting for Han Xuan'ai to slap herself in the face after this breath of time. You're overestimating yourself. Lin Tai, who was standing behind Lu Zhong, mocked. Time's up. Han Xuan'ai finally spoke. When her voice was heard, it was still fine when it entered the ears of others. However, when it entered Duan Lingtian's ears, it was like the sound of death. Duan Lingtian knew Han Xuan'ai very well. If she was not completely confident, she would not have said what she said earlier. This Lu Zhong is finished. Although he did not know why Han Xuan'ai was so confident that she could kill Lu Zhong, he did not doubt Han Xuan'ai's words at all. If Han Xuan'ai said that she wanted Lu Zhong dead, it was impossible for Lu Zhong to live. Soon, Duan Lingtian got his answer. Han Xuan'ai raised her hand and shot something out as soon as she finished speaking. Upon closer inspection, it was a piece of paper. A piece of paper that was light as a feather. It was a piece of yellow paper that was filled with scribbles. Dao Talisman. Duan Lingtian's pupils constricted when he saw the familiar yellow paper and the familiar scribbles. His face was filled with astonishment. Lin. Just as Duan Lingtian was horrified, Han Xuan'ai had already shouted in a low voice. Her voice was not loud, but it was heard by everyone present. Then, everyone present saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. As Han Xuan'ai said the word Lin, the scribbles on the yellow paper turned into dust instantly. At the same time, Lu Zhong's body exploded and turned into flesh and blood that filled the air. Not a single piece of him was intact. Before Lu Zhong's body exploded, everyone present saw a disdainful smile on his face. Lu Zhong was smiling as he exploded into flesh and blood that filled the air. Master! First Island Master! The flesh and blood that filled the air splashed onto Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai, who were the closest to Lu Zhong. However, they did not seem to feel anything. After exclaiming in shock, they were stunned. The scene just now had left them completely dumbfounded. Soon, Han Xuan'ai made her move. As she raised her hand, cold air condensed and turned the flesh and blood in the air into ice sculptures. The ice sculptures then turned into dust and disappeared from the world. Silence. The entire place was dead silent. Apart from the 3 little fellows, everyone present, including Tang Zhan, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, stared blankly at the yellow-clad girl not far away. At this moment, they felt a gush of cold air rising from the soles of their feet to their heads. It's a Dao talisman. Although it's different from the 3 Dao talismans my cheapskate father gave me, the one she used earlier was indeed a Dao talisman. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally knew why Han Xuan'ai was so confident. It turned out that she had a Dao talisman with her. Chapter 1325. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? You're digging your own grave. Han Xuan'ai snorted. At that moment, the crowd's eyes were filled with fear as they looked at her. If they did not witness it with their own eyes, it would be hard for them to imagine that such a harmless-looking young girl could kill Lu Zhong, the first island master of Coral Island, in just a blink of an eye. At that moment, in their eyes, this yellow-clad young girl was a little devil that they could not afford to offend. What's that yellow paper she threw out earlier? I don't know. All I saw was her throwing out the yellow paper and shouting up here. The first island master of Coral Island died just like that. That yellow paper is too scary. She's the scary one. She even has something like that. The crowd whispered to each other. The yellow paper that was filled with scribbles was deeply imprinted in their minds. It was unforgettable. Tang Jun, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, gasped. His gaze was extremely complicated. He did not expect the yellow-clad young girl who followed him all the way to Half Moon Island would have such a technique. Lu Zhong's ability was not inferior to his. In other words, as long as this yellow-clad young girl wanted to, she could still kill him. After killing Lu Zhong, Han Xuanai's gaze landed on Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai. Both of their expressions changed drastically. Humph. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Han Xuanai snorted softly. As she lifted her hand, a gust of bone-piercing cold wind swept out. Before Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai could react, they were frozen into ice sculptures. Smack! Smack! Subsequently, the two ice sculptures trembled all of a sudden. Ferocious cracks appeared on them before they eventually turned into a pile of ice shards and fell from the sky. They crashed onto the ground and turned into a fine powder. At that moment, most of the people present could not help but gasp. When they looked at Han Xuanai again, their gazes were filled with fear and dread. In the sky, two silhouettes stood there. It was a middle-aged man who was tall and muscular like a bull. The other two were three old men. The fact that the three old men were standing behind him was enough to show that the middle-aged man's status was higher than theirs. The middle-aged man was dressed in black armor. He looked like a mighty general. However, his pair of bright and spirited eyes were now mixed with a bit of fear. Fear that came from the bottom of his heart. Fear that came from the soul. Who is she? If one listened carefully, they would be able to hear the slight tremble in his voice. Lord Island Master, she was brought here by the first island master of the Hidden Fog Island, Tang Jun. One of the old men said. If Duan Lingtian were here, he would definitely recognize that the old man who was speaking now was the vice island master of Half Moon Island, who had arranged accommodation for them 2.5 months ago. Xiao Kuan. Even Xiao Kuan had to respectfully address the middle-aged man as Lord Island Master, so his identity was naturally obvious. The island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong. Di Yong had a sturdy body and looked like an ox from afar. His eyes shone with a wise luster. It was obvious that he was not a simple-minded, brawny man. That made sense. As the island master of Half Moon Island, the head of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands, how could he be an ordinary person? She actually has a Dao talisman. She must be from the Dao Martial Saint Land. Di Yong said solemnly. Dao talisman? The 3 old men were shocked when they heard Di Yong's words. Lord Island Master, did you say she used a Dao talisman earlier? Xiao Kuan inhaled sharply, disbelief written all over his face. There's no way I'm mistaken. Although it's my first time seeing a Dao talisman, I've read about it in some ancient books. The way to use a Dao talisman is to throw it out and shout activate. Di Yong said, Dao talisman. Only Dao cultivators above the Saint Rudiment stage can draw it. Moreover, not all Dao cultivators above the Saint Rudiment stage can draw Dao talismans. It's said that one must be gifted in this aspect to draw Dao talismans. Otherwise, even a Saint stage Dao cultivator won't be able to draw it. The other 2 old men said hurriedly. Their faces were extremely solemn. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, it's very difficult for anyone below the Saint Rudiment stage to get a Dao talisman unless they have a powerful background. Di Yong took a deep breath. There's either a powerhouse above the Saint Rudiment stage behind this girl or a powerful force in the Dao Martial Saint Land. No matter which one it is, she's not someone Half Moon Island can afford to offend. Lord Island Master, should we continue with the plan? If we offend the powerhouse or force behind this girl, our Half Moon Island. Although Xiao Kuan did not finish his sentence, Di Yong and the other 2 old men knew what he was going to say next. The other 2 old men were the vice island masters of Half Moon Island, just like Xiao Kuan. The plan is still the same. When the plan starts, we'll just send her away. Even if we can't afford to offend her, can't we just hide from her? Di Yong said with a gleam in his eyes. As long as the plan comes to fruition, Lord Island Master's ability will definitely rise to another level. At that time, With Lord Island Master's ability, you'll definitely be able to take over a remote place in the Dao Marshal Saintland. It's nothing even if you have to give up Half Moon Island. Another Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island said, "That's right." The last Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island agreed. "If that's the case, we'll continue with the plan. However, it's a pity that Luo Fengzhu died," Xiao Kuan said. "Indeed, it's a pity." Di Yong nodded. "Although the plan is still the same, we'll have to make more preparations for this girl. We'll be busier in the next 2 weeks." Soon after, Di Yong and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island left. From the beginning until the end, nobody noticed their arrival. The news of Han Xuanai killing Lu Zhong, the first Island Master of Coral Island, and Luo Fengzhu, the #1 of the Coral Martial Competition, spread quickly to the entire Half Moon Island. Everyone on Half Moon Island knew that a female fiend had come to the Hidden Fog Island. She killed Lu Zhong, the first Island Master of Coral Island, in just one move. Even Tang Zhan, the first Island Master of Hidden Fog Island, was only evenly matched with Lu Zhong. It was impossible for him to do that. After this battle, most of the people from Hidden Fog Island were like mice that saw a cat when they saw Han Xuanai. Only Duan Lingtian and the rest who were familiar with Han Xuanai were not affected. However, the technique that Han Xuanai displayed still shocked Ke, Li Fei, and Qing Xin's Emperor Wu, who were familiar with Han Xuanai. "Young Master." Ke passed something to Duan Lingtian. "A saint token?" With just a glance, Duan Lingtian recognized that the thing that Ke passed to him was the saint token that contained the colossal aerolite arrow. "Ke, you don't have to return it to me in a hurry. I don't need it now. You and little Fei can't leave the colossal aerolite arrow until you've cultivated it to its peak," Duan Lingtian said. Just like the others, the 2 girls had to rely on the saint token to cultivate the saint-grade martial tactic that was stored in it. This was because they could only see part of the information in the saint token. They were unlike him, who could read the saint-grade martial tactic in the saint token in one go and store it in his mind. They could only see the rest of the information after they had comprehended part of the information and cultivated it to a certain level. They could only see all the information in it after they had cultivated all the techniques in it to the stage of mastery. Mastery was the 4th stage of the techniques in the saint-grade martial tactic. After that was the immaculate refinement, which was also the 5th stage and the highest stage. "Young Master, Sister Fei and I have tried many times during this period of time. We don't have any talent in archery. We're going to continue using swords." Ke said, "So, it's useless for us to keep it." Duan Lingtian finally understood. He could understand Ke's words. If he was not an outstanding sniper in his previous life, he would not have mastered and familiarized himself with archery so quickly in this life. Everybody knew how to shoot archery. However, it wasn't a simple matter to ensure that all of his shots hit the target without missing a single time. Not to mention killing 2 birds with 1 stone, 3 birds with 1 stone, 4 birds with 1 stone, 5 birds with 1 stone. If we're going to use swords, I've thought of a good place. Duan Lingtian smiled after he put the saint token away. "What place?" Ke's eyes lit up. "After we're done here on Half Moon Island, I'll bring you and little Fei to that place. At that time, you can pay your respects to senior sister Yang Shui along the way. You can also visit Peak Master Qin Xiang in the 7-star sword sect." Duan Lingtian said. "Yes." Ke nodded, and her pair of beautiful and moving eyes turned completely red when she heard Duan Lingtian mention Yang Shui. Time passed by quietly. In the next half a month, apart from cultivating, Duan Lingtian did not neglect the comprehension of the 2 profundities. At the same time, he did not forget to cultivate the techniques in the colossal aerolite arrow. Other than the defensive technique, the colossal arrow bell, which he could not cultivate for the time being, he had dabbled in the other techniques. However, he mainly cultivated 2 of the techniques: the aerolite strike and body and arrow synchronization. These 2 techniques were also the techniques that he had cultivated to the fundamental insight stage. "Kid, your aerolite strike should be at the elementary stage in a few days." Half a month later, Wang Ba's voice came into Duan Lingtian's mind. "I'm confident I can break through in 10 days. Unfortunately, the Island Master of Half Moon Island is going to select his direct disciple soon. I don't have much time, Duan Lingtian said. With your current ability, as long as that girl doesn't compete with you, it won't be difficult for you to become the island master of Half Moon Island's direct disciple. Wang Ba said. Xuanai? She's not interested in becoming the island master of Half Moon Island's direct disciple. She just wants to join in the fun. Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled. What about you? Are you interested in becoming the island master of Half Moon Island's direct disciple? Wang Ba asked Duan Lingtian as he said in disdain. According to my speculation, the island master of Half Moon Island is at the mortal shedding stage at most. Moreover, he's only at the lowest mortal shedding stage. Are you really going to acknowledge such an ant as your master? Chapter 1326. Ant. The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard Wang Ba's words. Wang Ba actually called someone at the mortal shedding stage an ant. Did that not mean he was worse than an ant? Duan Lingtian was currently a martial cultivator at the innate void restoration stage in the Dao martial saint land. Whether it was the acquired stage or the innate stage, they were all at the mortal stage. Whether it was a martial cultivator or a Dao cultivator, one could only break through to the mortal shedding stage after breaking through the shackles of the mortal stage. We'll see when the time comes. I have a feeling this isn't as simple as it seems. Duan Lingtian said. He had never thought about it before. Since Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, was suspected to be at the mortal shedding stage, then with his strength, no one in the four great overseas Saint Islands or Cloud Continent would be a match for him. At the very least, there was no one on the surface. Nothing was absolute. Duan Lingtian did not dare to say there were no reclusive powerhouses on Cloud Continent or the overseas Saint Islands. Even Xuanai often came back from the Dao martial Saint Land. It was not impossible for other powerhouses to come to the overseas Saint Islands or Cloud Continent from the Dao martial Saint Land to cultivate in seclusion. Today was the day Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, would test the people from the three great overseas Saint Islands to select his direct disciple. Under the lead of the three vice island masters of Half Moon Island, the people from the three great overseas Saint Islands arrived at a deep mountain in the north of Half Moon Island. This deep mountain was shrouded in clouds and mist all year long. Many inscription formations were set up. Duan Lingtian could clearly sense the inscription formations fluctuation from afar. They're from Coral Island? Soon after, Duan Lingtian looked at a group of people nearby. These people were led by an old man. There were only 28 people following behind the old man. There were less than 30 people. The rest of the people followed from afar. The two people missing were the two people who were killed by Han Xuanai half a month ago, Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai. That's Coral Island's second island master. A voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. He could tell it was Fengwan, the third island master of the Hidden Fog Island. Ever since Han Xuanai made her move half a month ago, be it the first island master of Hidden Fog Island or the third island master of Hidden Fog Island, they were very polite to those who were close to Han Xuanai. Now, seeing that Duan Lingtian was looking at the leader of the Coral Island group with great interest, Fengwan took the initiative to remind him, expressing goodwill to Han Xuanai. Duan Lingtian was the closest person to Han Xuanai. Fengwan didn't dare to be negligent. At this time, the group of people from Coral Island also saw Duan Lingtian and the others. Their gazes fell on Han Xuanai beside Duan Lingtian, revealing traces of hatred. What? You want to avenge those three fellows? Han Xuanai glanced at the people from Coral Island nonchalantly and asked in a neither fast nor slow manner. As she spoke, her eyes gleamed with a cold gleam. At once, the expressions of the people from Coral Island, including the second island master of Coral Island, changed drastically. Although they were furious, they still withdrew their gazes from Han Xuanai. What a joke. Half a month ago, the other party killed their first island master, the strongest powerhouse on Coral Island, in just one move. If they were to provoke the other party, they might not even be enough to fill the gap between the other party's teeth. It's the people from Heaven Reef Island. Nobody knew who said it, but Duan Lingtian's gaze fell on another group of people. This group of people was led by an old man and a middle-aged man. There were 30 people following closely behind them. Naturally, apart from the 30 people, there was another group of people following from afar. It was apparent that they were here to join in the fun. For example, the disciples of Emperor Wu and demon emperors from Cloud Continent, who did not make it to the top 30 in the Hidden Fog martial competition, as well as the disciples of Emperor Wu and demon emperors under their command. After the group of people from Heaven Reef Island arrived, their gazes also paused on Han Shu and I for a while. There was a hint of dread in the depth of their eyes. It was apparent that they had also heard about what Han Shu and I did half a month ago. The rest of you, wait here. The top 30 of the Hidden Fog martial competition, follow me. 3 months ago, Xiao Kuan, the Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island, who had arranged accommodation for the people from Hidden Fog Island, said to Duan Lingtian, Han Shu and I, and the rest of the 30 people. At the same time, the other 2 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were also greeting the people from the other 2 overseas Saint Islands. At that moment, the 3 groups of people gathered under the lead of the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. They entered the deep mountains that were shrouded in clouds and mist and disappeared before the group of people outside. I'm afraid there's no doubt about the result of Lord Di Yong, the Island Master of Half Moon Island, selecting his direct disciple today. Someone sighed. That's right. That lady from Hidden Fog Island can even kill the first Island Master of Coral Island. She'll definitely be the winner today. She'll definitely be the direct disciple that Lord Di Yong is going to accept. Someone agreed. I don't think so. I heard that she relied on external help to kill the first Island Master of Coral Island. If she didn't rely on external help, she might not be a match for the first Island Master of Coral Island. Someone said. She relied on external help to kill the first Island Master of Coral Island? However, she didn't rely on external help to kill Luo Fengzhu, who ranked first in the Coral Martial competition. That's right. Although Luo Fengzhu was distracted at that time, she managed to kill him before he could react. Her ability is definitely above Luo Fengzhu's. If she's really that powerful, why didn't she rank first in the Hidden Fog martial competition? Many people were discussing about Han Shu and I. However, they soon learned from the people from Hidden Fog Island that Han Shu and I did not participate in the Hidden Fog martial competition to compete for the first place. If she had competed, the first place in the Hidden Fog martial competition would have been within her reach. That Duan Lingtian wouldn't even have a chance to win. Many people said so after they learned about the ins and outs of the matter. No matter how lively it was outside, Duan Lingtian and the rest of the 88 people soon realized that the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were nowhere to be seen. It was as though they had vanished into thin air. Soon, the scene before everyone's eyes became illusory. Subsequently, everyone realized that they had appeared in another place. Everything in this place was so real. However, they knew that it was all an illusion. Illusory formation? Duan Lingtian smirked in disdain. Although his spiritual energy was only at the 3rd level of Emperor Wu stage, it was difficult for him to deal with Emperor Wu powerhouses who were on a higher level with his spiritual energy attack. However, his current spiritual energy was enough for him to break the illusory formation before him. One must know that he had the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu's 2 lifetimes in his memory. During the reincarnation Emperor Wu's 2nd lifetime, apart from being a royal-grade weapon craftsman, he was also an inscription master. Relying on the reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory of the inscription Dao, Duan Lingtian only needed a thought to break the illusory formation before him with his spiritual energy. From the beginning until the end, there was no obstruction in the illusory formation. After breaking the illusory formation, Duan Lingtian realized that the scene around him was like a demon dancing around. The group of people who came in with him were flying around and attacking continuously. They attacked the air as though they were possessed. Many people were even injured by accident. Duan Lingtian knew very well that the reason they seemed to have gone crazy was because of the illusory formation. Where's Xuanai? Soon after, Duan Lingtian's expression changed slightly when he realized Xuanai was gone. Apart from Xuanai, the remaining 86 people were all around him. Including him, there were a total of 87 people. Xuanai was the only one missing. Did something happen to Xuanai? Duan Lingtian's expression was a little grave. Just when Duan Lingtian was about to leave to look for Xuanai, a gust of wind suddenly blew in the surroundings. It was a gust of wind that made one's hair stand on end as though it came from a graveyard. The chilly wind blew, causing Duan Tion's expression to turn solemn. Brat, you're in trouble today. It's a devil cultivator on the mortal shedding stage. At the same time, Wang Ba's voice rang in Duan Tian's mind, reminding Duan Tian. Devil cultivator. Duan Tian's eyes narrowed as a shocked expression appeared on his face. He was no stranger to devil cultivators. He had even taken the initiative to learn about them from Wang Ba. This was because Wang Ba was a devil cultivator back then. Moreover, he was a devil cultivator who had entered the saint stage. Therefore, Wang Ba knew devil cultivators as well as he knew himself. Naturally, he knew himself as well as he knew devil cultivators. This was because he was a devil cultivator himself. Devil cultivator was a general term. Those who cultivated with a stubborn cultivation method and were unscrupulous in order to raise their strength. Regardless of whether they were martial cultivators or Tao cultivators, they were all called devil cultivators. You actually broke the illusory formation so quickly. At this moment, a voice that was filled with surprise resonated. Subsequently, Duan Tian noticed a sturdy figure appeared in front of him at the same time as the rolling black fog appeared in all directions. It was a middle-aged man dressed in black. He was tall like a gigantic tower. At this moment, the black-clad middle-aged man's eyes were staring at him intently. You're Di Yong? Just when Duan Tian was about to ask who the black-clad middle-aged man was, Wang Ba's voice resonated in his mind. Through Wang Ba's reminder, he guessed the identity of the black-clad middle-aged man in front of him. That's right. I'm Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island. The black-clad middle-aged man replied. Di Yong, you asked the 3 great overseas saint islands to select us under the pretense that you're recruiting direct disciples. All of this was just for today? To absorb our vital essence? Duan Tian asked in a deep voice as his eyes gleamed fiercely. How did you know? Upon hearing Duan Tian mentioning his scheme, Di Yong's eyes narrowed in shock. He did not expect Duan Tian to know about his plan. In fact, apart from him, only the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island knew about his plan. How could he have known that there was a devil cultivator hiding in Duan Tian's body? A devil cultivator who was a saint stage powerhouse in his prime. Wang Ba could easily see through a devil cultivator's scheme, just like Di Yong's current motive. Chapter 1327. In the beginning, Duan Tian already felt that something was amiss. As the island master of Half Moon Island, by right, he would not lack a suitable successor. However, he still asked the other 3 overseas saint islands to gather powerhouses in the prime of their lives. It was really puzzling. Earlier, Duan Tian learned this from Wang Ba. In the Tao martial saint land, martial and Tao cultivators below the age of 70 were considered to be in the prime of their lives. After all, as long as a martial and Tao cultivator in the Tao martial saint land broke through to the mortal shedding stage, they would have a lifespan of 300 years. Once they broke through to the saint rudiment stage, their lifespan would increase by another 200 years. As for saint stage powerhouses, it was even more ridiculous. Even the weakest one could live up to 1,000 years. Those who were at the top would have an endless lifespan. As long as they were not killed, they could live as long as heaven and earth. Due to this reason, people below the age of 70 were considered to be in the prime of their lives in the Tao martial saint land. No wonder the hidden fog martial competition only allows those whose age can be measured by the age measuring pearl to participate. Wouldn't those whose age can be measured by the age measuring pearl be below the age of 70? After putting everything together, Duan Tian finally realized what was going on. From the beginning, Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, was lying when he said he wanted to take in a direct disciple to be the next island master of Half Moon Island. His intention was to get the 3 overseas saint islands to send powerhouses in the prime of their lives to him so that he could absorb their vital essence. Absorbing the vital essence of martial and Tao cultivators in the prime of their lives to raise their own strength. This kind of devil technique is the lowest level devil technique in the Tao martial saint land. Wang Ba's voice resonated in Duan Tian's mind. It was filled with disdain. As a former saint stage powerhouse, he had his own pride. As a devil cultivator, He looked down on devil cultivators who cultivated low-level devil techniques the most. In his opinion, this kind of devil cultivators were trash. They did not even deserve to carry his shoes. The lowest level devil technique? Don't tell me this kind of devil technique can only raise one's strength? Duan Lingtian asked. As long as there are enough martial and Dao cultivators in the prime of their lives for him to absorb the essence of, he will be able to improve greatly. His cultivation speed is not inferior to that of a middle-grade devil art cultivator. Wang Ba said, how can it only be a low-grade demonic art with such great improvement and fast cultivation speed? Duan Lingtian was a little confused. This kind of low-grade devil art is even inferior to other low-grade devil arts. Sometimes, it's not a good thing to have a large increase in cultivation speed. Wang Ba snorted. It's fine if people who cultivate this kind of devil technique are willing to stay at the mortal shedding stage for the rest of their lives. However, if they try to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage, there's a 90% chance that they'll die. In the early stages of cultivating this kind of low-grade devil technique, even the cultivator himself won't be able to notice anything. However, once he tries to break through to the Saint Rudiment stage, he'll realize he's unknowingly planted a seed of disaster that's capable of killing him. Wang Ba finished in one breath. Duan Lingtian suddenly understood. So that's how it is. Wang Ba. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian recalled something. Is there anything special about Di Yong absorbing the essence of powerhouses in the prime of their lives? Of course. Wang Ba said, the stronger the strength of a middle-aged man, the more powerful his essence will be. Otherwise, why do you think he urged the 3 overseas Saint Islands to select the most outstanding 90 people? Duan Lingtian nodded. He finally understood. Boy, you still haven't answered me. How do you know I'm going to absorb your essence? Di Yong's voice resonated and startled Duan Lingtian. When Duan Lingtian regained his senses, horror dawned on him when he saw the scene before his eyes. Heavens! What did he just see? He saw Di Yong standing in the distance. Unknowingly, streaks of black light extended from his body. Each streak of black light was connected to a person and 86 middle-aged powerhouses. Today, apart from Di Yong and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, there were only 88 people, including Duan Lingtian, who had entered the depths of the mountain. There were originally 90 of them. Since Han Shu and I killed 2 people from Coral Island, there were 2 fewer people. When Duan Lingtian had broken the illusory formation and regained his senses, Han Shuenai had already noticed that she was gone. Therefore, apart from him, there were only 86 people left. Now, all 86 people were connected to the streaks of black light extending from Di Yong's body. The streaks of black light exuded a bone-chilling aura. This aura seems somewhat familiar. While Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically, his heart jolted. He felt like he had encountered a similar aura somewhere before, but he could not recall it at the moment. Di Yong stood in the air. The 86 streaks of black light extending from his body seemed to form a spider web, and he was the spider in the middle of the spider web. As for the 86 people connected by the streaks of black light, they were like its prey. Boom! Suddenly, a loud, muffled sound resonated. It was a shockwave gushing out of Di Yong's body. It swept out and shook Duan Lingtian's internal organs so much that he almost spat out blood. After a while, Duan Lingtian regained his senses. At this moment, Duan Lingtian saw the 86 people connected by the streaks of black light. His body trembled all of a sudden. Subsequently, traces of blood-red mist extended from their bodies and swept toward Di Yong along with the streaks of black light. Wang Yu. At this moment, Duan Lingtian saw one of them open his eyes. It was the direct disciple of Qing Xian's Emperor Wu, Wang Yu. Just as Wang Yu opened his eyes, he seemed to have noticed something. His expression changed drastically. Wang. Without any hesitation, Wang Yu raised his hand and swept out his palm blade. He easily cut off the streaks of black light that connected him and broke free. So weak. Seeing that the streaks of black light were so easily cut off by Wang Yu, and that there was no more blood-red mist on Wang Yu's body, Duan Lingtian's eyes suddenly lit up. Did this mean that as long as he made a move, he could easily cut off the other 85 streaks of black light and save everyone? Just as Duan Lingtian was about to give it a try, Wang Ba's voice was heard. It was like a bucket of cold water had been poured on his head. Young man, for those streaks of black light, unless the person is connected, the other person who wants to cut them off must be at least as strong as Di Yong. Hearing this, Duan Lingtian could not help but frown. Based on what you're saying, the person who is connected can cut off these streaks of black light? Didn't you see it? This young man named Wang Yu easily cut off the streaks of black light that connected him. The reason why it was so easy was because the streaks of black light wanted to absorb his essence and did not repel him. It's impossible for him to cut off the other 85 streaks of black light. As soon as Wang Ba's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian saw Wang Yu making a move at lightning speed. He wanted to save his fellow disciples. There were a few people under Qing Xin's Emperor Wu who were in the top 30 of the Hidden Fog martial arts competition. However, no matter how Wang Yu attacked, even if he used his spirit weapon or his innate ability, he could not do anything to the streaks of black light that were connected to his fellow disciples. At this moment, Wang Yu's expression changed drastically. Looking at Di Yong, who was in the middle of the 85 streaks of black light, Wang Yu looked around and quickly noticed Duan Lingtian. His eyes lit up immediately. Duan Lingtian, what's going on? Wang Yu came to Duan Lingtian's side and asked with a grave expression. In the distance, the 85 streaks of black light continued to send the dense blood-red mist into Di Yong's body. At the same time, the skin of those who were connected to the 85 streaks of black light began to age. The most obvious change was for those who were originally young. As the blood-red mist continued to seep out of their bodies and was sent into Di Yong's body through the black light, wrinkles began to appear on their faces. As the wrinkles continued to increase, their black hair began to turn white. In front of them, having one's hair turn white overnight was nothing at all. In just a few moments, their black hair had turned completely white. Just by looking at them with his naked eyes, Duan Lingtian could see that their vital essence was flowing away. Their vitality was also weakening. When the last trace of their vital essence was absorbed, their lives would come to an end. What a fast absorption speed! Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically. He did not even have the time to explain to Wang Yu. He immediately asked Wang Ba, "Bastard, if I use the Devil Seal tablet, will I be able to deal with him?" Earlier, Duan Lingtian had already recalled the reason he found Di Yong's aura familiar. It was because the Devil Seal tablet's aura was similar. The Devil Seal tablet was a super saint weapon that was ranked in the 10 Great Saint Weapons ranking of the Dao Martial Saintland. It was not powerful, but it had a shocking ability. It could suppress a devil cultivator. To be more precise, it could suppress a devil cultivator's soul. Of course, with your cultivation base, you can use the Devil Seal tablet to deal with him. Wang Ba said, "Why didn't you remind me earlier?" When Duan Lingtian heard Wang Ba's words, horror dawned on him when he saw the 85 people were about to die. "I don't want to talk about it," Wang Ba said matter-of-factly. He made it very clear that he did not want to talk about the Devil Seal tablet. As a devil cultivator, especially one who had been suppressed by the Devil Seal tablet for many years, Wang Ba hated the Devil Seal tablet from the bottom of his soul. Naturally, he did not want to talk about it. As for the lives of the 85 people, they were worthless in his eyes. "I'll deal with you later," Duan Lingtian cursed. With a raise of his hand, the royal grade spirit bow and arrow appeared. He pulled the bowstring to the shape of a full moon and shot an arrow out. Body and arrow synchronization. At the same time that Duan Lingtian stepped on the arrows and flashed out, he put away the strong bow in his hand. Subsequently, another stone tablet appeared in his hand. It was a stone tablet that had a missing corner. The moment the stone tablet appeared, it was as though it had been injected with chicken blood. It pulled Duan Lingtian toward Di Yong's direction. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's speed increased again. The Devil Seal tablet was extremely sensitive to devil cultivators who did not deliberately hide their souls. Its mission was to suppress the souls of devil cultivators. Die. Chapter 1328. When the Devil Seal tablet encountered a devil cultivator, it was as if it had been injected with chicken blood. Now, Duan Lingtian lifted it up and smashed it with all his might. It charged toward De Yong like a falling meteor. Child's play. When he heard the piercing sound of the wind, De Yong opened his eyes abruptly, a look of disdain on his face. However, in the next moment, he realized something else. The stone tablet that was falling toward him was emitting an aura that made his heart palpitate. When the stone tablet approached him, his soul began to tremble violently. In an instant, his expression changed drastically. He realized that things were not that simple. Soul attack? Seeing that the stone tablet was getting closer and closer, and his soul was on the verge of collapse, De Yong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Waves of black energy surged out of his body, emitting waves of air. At the same time, a high-pitched sound rang out, causing Wang Yu's ears to bleed. Duan Lingtian's eardrums hurt from the sound, and he felt dizzy. Dragon's roar. Before Duan Lingtian could react to what was happening, Wang Ba's voice rang out in a timely manner. His tone was filled with shock. Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian shuddered and came to his senses. With just a glance, he saw that De Yong was no longer there. In his place was a black divine dragon that stretched for more than 100 meters. This divine dragon looked no different from the legendary Eastern divine dragon on Earth in his previous life. Its antlers were like a deer, its head like a camel, its mouth like a donkey, its eyes like a tortoise, its ears like a cow, its scales like a fish, its whiskers like a shrimp, its belly like a snake, and its feet like an eagle. It looked exactly like an Eastern divine dragon. However, it looked more like an Eastern divine dragon that had been demonized. Its scales were black and shiny, and its crimson eyes were emotionless and cold. This black divine dragon was De Yong's transformation. To put it bluntly, it was De Yong's true form. He, Duan Lingtian, was shocked, not because De Yong was not human, but because De Yong was a divine dragon. He could tell. De Yong's true form was not a flood dragon, but a true divine dragon. Boom, 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 boom. After De Yong transformed into his true form, the 85 black rays of light seemed to have been injected with chicken blood as they accelerated the absorption of essence energy. In the blink of an eye, all 85 people's essence energy had been sucked dry. In an instant, the essence of the 85 people was sucked dry, turning them into 85 dried corpses. In the next moment, the 85 dried corpses were struck by the waves of energy coming from the other end of the black ray of light. They exploded one by one, turning into fine powder that filled the air and disappeared between heaven and earth. Bang! The Devil Seal tombstone landed on the black divine dragon's head with a loud bang. Almost at the same time, a deafening dragon's cry rang in the air. This time, regardless of whether it was Duan Lingtian or Wang Yu, they were prepared and were not greatly affected. It's fine. Soon after, Duan Lingtian's expression changed. This was because he discovered that the Devil Seal tombstone had not suppressed the black divine dragon's soul when it had landed on its head. It was still alive and well, but its body had trembled a few times. Boy, what is this thing? From afar, the black divine dragon that watched the Devil Seal tablet soar into the sky and abandon it. Its crimson eyes stared fixedly at Duan Lingtian, and its voice was filled with coldness and fear. Earlier, it had sensed a powerful suction force from the tombstone. Its soul had almost been sucked away. If its soul had been sucked away, it would have been finished. From an outsider's point of view, its body had only trembled a little. Only it knew that it had just walked through the gates of hell. Fortunately, I transformed into my true form at the critical moment. With the powerful soul defense of my true form as a dragon, I managed to block the terrifying suction force from that strange tombstone. The black divine dragon, De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, still had lingering fears. Boy, you almost ruined my plans. This day next year will be your death anniversary. De Yong stared at Duan Lingtian with murderous intent flashing in his eyes. If he had not transformed into his true form in time, his soul would have been sucked away. If that had happened, not only would he not have been able to absorb the vital essence of the 85 people, he might even have been killed. If his soul was destroyed, there was no way he could survive. Kill it first before you clamor to kill me. Faced with the murderous De Yong, Duan Lingtian looked at the sky above De Yong's head and sneered disdainfully. Huh. De Yong was stunned at first. Then, he seemed to have noticed something, and his expression changed drastically. When he lifted his head, he saw that the tombstone that had abandoned him was descending again in a menacing manner. That was not all. He also noticed that the tombstone gave him a more dangerous feeling than before. It seemed to be enraged. A tombstone would be enraged? At this moment, even De Yong wondered if he had lost his mind. De Yong no longer had the time to settle the score with Duan Lingtian. The tombstone that descended from the sky frightened him so much that his soul began to tremble violently again. I feel, even with my true form's innate soul defense, I'm afraid I won't be able to block the suction force from this tombstone this time. Not knowing why, such a thought suddenly appeared in De Yong's mind. Once the thought appeared, it was difficult to suppress it. This tombstone. Suddenly, De Yong saw the chipped corner on the tombstone. His eyes flashed, and a hint of confusion could be seen in his eyes. In the end, he seemed to have recalled something, and fear rose in his heart. The Devil Seal tombstone. Oh my God, it's the Devil Seal tombstone. De Yong recognized the Devil Seal tombstone. The reason he did not recognize it in the beginning was because the Devil Seal tombstone he knew in the past was not as complete as it was now. The Devil Seal tombstone was originally divided into 3 parts. Now that the 2 parts had merged into one, it only lacked the last part to complete the Devil Seal tombstone. At that time, the Devil Seal tombstone would truly be considered a super saint weapon on the 10 great saint weapons ranking. Currently, the Devil Seal tombstone was incomplete. However, even if it was incomplete, it was still not something he could fight against. After recognizing the Devil Seal tombstone, De Yong no longer had any intention to fight. There was only one thought left in his mind: run. Seeing the black divine dragon De Yong that was 100 meters long trying to escape from the Devil Seal tombstone that was smashing toward him again, Duan Lingtian and Duan Lingtian looked at each other. De Yong must have discovered that the Devil Seal tombstone was not as simple as it seemed. Or perhaps De Yong knew how powerful the Devil Seal tombstone was and recognized it. Haha, looks like even the heavens are helping me. Boy, quickly get close to it. Once the Devil Seal tombstone has suppressed its soul, I'll seize its body. Wang Ba's hearty laughter resonated in Duan Lingtian's mind. However, my soul is too weak now. Even if you activate the Devil Seal tombstone, it'll be enough to suppress me. Once the Devil Seal tombstone has suppressed its soul, I'll remind you to put the Devil Seal tombstone away at that time. Don't suppress me as well. Wang Ba continued. There was a hint of seriousness in his tone. Okay. Duan Lingtian responded instinctively before he reacted. He could not help but ask, Bastard, didn't you want the body of the dragon's direct descendant? This fellow doesn't seem to be very strong. It shouldn't be a direct descendant of the dragons, right? It's a direct descendant of the dragons, Wang Ba said before he continued to urge him, hurry up and go over now. As for the other matters, we'll talk about them after I've seized its body. Quick, quick. Wang Ba's tone was filled with anxiety and excitement. Anyone could hear the excitement in his voice. Understood. Duan Lingtian responded before he raised his hand and took out the royal grade spirit bow and arrow again. He drew the bow, knocked the arrow, pulled the string, and released the arrow. Whoosh! The arrow shot out like a bolt of lightning. Duan Lingtian landed on it in time. His body followed the arrow as he charged toward De Yong, who had transformed into his true form as the divine dragon. His speed was getting faster and faster. At the same time, De Yong, who had not escaped far away, could not avoid the Devil Seal tombstone. Once again, the Devil Seal tombstone smashed heavily on his head. A shrill dragon cry resonated in the air, accompanied by an unwilling cry. No, this was the last sound De Yong left in this world. When the Devil Seal tombstone smashed into his head, the suction force was even stronger than before. Although De Yong's main body had a strong soul defense, his soul was still sucked out by the Devil Seal tombstone. To be more precise, it was the dragon's soul. Whoosh! At the same time, Duan Lingtian rushed over and appeared next to the black divine dragon that had suddenly fallen from the sky after losing its soul. Ha 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 ha. Excited laughter filled Duan Lingtian's mind. The voice was getting further and further away. After a while, the laughter disappeared. At the same time, Duan Lingtian could clearly sense Wang Ba's soul leaving his body. He could not help but heave a sigh of relief as a smile appeared on his face. He still felt uncomfortable with Wang Ba in his body. He felt much better now that Wang Ba had left. Boy, quickly put away the devil seal tombstone. Soon after, Wang Ba's voice sounded again and entered Duan Lingtian's ears. When Duan Lingtian heard this, he immediately put away the devil seal tombstone into his spatial ring to prevent it from accidentally injuring Wang Ba. After putting away the devil seal tombstone, Duan Lingtian looked at the black divine dragon's body that was still falling from the sky. The black divine dragon's body was covered in pitch-black dragon scales that gleamed with a cold light. However, its eyes were dim and lifeless. Boy, I'll stay here for a while to get used to my new body. You don't have to worry about me. Wang Ba's voice sounded again. Duan Lingtian saw the huge body of the black divine dragon that was originally falling straight down from the sky suddenly trembled before it disappeared before his eyes and hid in the mist deep in the mountains. Duan Lingtian heaved a deep sigh of relief. He was still in a daze when he recalled the scene earlier. The fact that Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, was a devil cultivator had already shocked him greatly. However, it was only in the end that he realized Di Yong was not just a devil cultivator. Di Yong was also a direct descendant of the dragons. He was a black divine dragon. Duan Lingtian, what exactly happened earlier? Wang Yu came to Duan Lingtian's side without him noticing. There was only confusion in his eyes. From the beginning until the end, he had no idea what had happened at all. The island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, didn't really want to recruit a direct disciple. No, where's Xuanai? Just when Duan Lingtian thought that the matter had been resolved and was about to explain to Wang Yu, a light bulb went off in his head. He remembered Han Xuanai, and his expression changed drastically. Chapter 1329. Brother Ling Tian. Just when Duan Lingtian was worried about Han Xuanai's safety, a familiar voice came from afar, causing Duan Lingtian to heave a sigh of relief. Xuanai. It was a young girl in yellow who came along with the voice. It was Han Xuanai. Brother Ling Tian, what happened here? I heard a few loud noises coming from here. Han Xuanai asked. Xuanai, where did you go? Duan Lingtian asked curiously and did not answer Han Xuanai for the time being. I encountered an illusory formation earlier. Initially, that illusory formation was nothing, but I wanted to see what would appear in the illusory formation, so I went after the enemy in the illusory formation. Han Xuanai recalled as she said. After that, I realized all of you were gone after I left the illusory formation. I must have gone too far. I searched for a long time. I only rushed back when I heard the noises here. Han Xuanai finished in one breath. You said, the enemy in the illusory formation that you faced ran away? Duan Lingtian asked. Yes. Han Xuanai nodded. It seems like someone lured you away on purpose. Duan Lingtian said. Including him, out of the 88 people who were with him, only Han Xuanai had left. Moreover, it was the illusion in the illusory formation that lured her away. It was obvious that someone lured Han Xuanai away on purpose. It must be Di Yong. However, he actually gave up on absorbing Xuanai's vital essence? Duan Lingtian frowned when he thought of this, but his frown eased a moment later. It must be because of the incident half a month ago. He must have known that it was a Dao talisman and guessed that Xuanai's background is not simple, so he didn't dare to attack her. Half a month ago, Han Xuanai had killed the first island master of Coral Island with a Dao talisman. This incident could be said to have shocked the entire Half Moon Island. As the island master of Half Moon Island, it was impossible for Di Yong not to know. Dao talismans could only be inscribed by Dao cultivators above the Saint Rudiment stage, and not just any Dao cultivator could inscribe them. To be able to take out a Dao talisman, one must have an expert behind them or a powerful force behind them. No matter who it is, Di Yong wouldn't dare to risk offending Xuanai. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to deduce this. You deliberately led me away? Han Xuanai was at a loss. Brother Lingtian, What are you talking about? Why is someone trying to distract me? Xuanai. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and said, including you, me, and Wang Yu, there were 88 people who came in together. Now, only the 3 of us are still alive. What? After hearing Duan Lingtian's words, even Han Shu and I, who had seen the world, couldn't help but change her expression. 85 people, gone? How long had it been? Brother Lingtian, what's going on? Han Shu and I asked. Her expression was solemn, which was rare for her. Earlier, as soon as I broke out of the illusory formation, Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, appeared. Duan Lingtian said with a solemn expression. As soon as he appeared, black mist rose from his body. 86 black rays extended from his body and connected to the other 86 people apart from me. 86 people were trapped in the illusory formation and were unconscious. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian recounted the situation. This included how Wang Yu woke up in time and escaped death. You're really lucky. Han Shu and I glanced at Wang Yu before looking at Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, the island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, is a devil cultivator. Do you know about devil cultivators? Han Shu and I asked. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. What's a devil cultivator? Wang Yu could not help but ask. His expression did not look too good. It was not because of what Han Shu and I said earlier, but because of his senior brothers and junior brothers. His senior brothers and junior brothers were still alive and kicking when they entered. However, they were all gone in the blink of an eye. Devil cultivators refer to those humans or demons who do whatever it takes to elevate their abilities. Absorbing essence is only one of the methods devil cultivators use. There are also many devil cultivators who eat babies less than a month old raw. They devour the innate qi in the babies' bodies to cultivate. Han Shu and I gave a rough explanation. However, it was this rough explanation that shocked Wang Yu so much that his expression changed drastically. Raw. Eating babies raw? At this moment, Duan Lingtian's expression darkened slightly as well. Although he had already heard about this from Wang Ba, he was still furious when he heard Han Shu and I mention it again. The actions of some devil cultivators were simply beasts. No, they were worse than beasts. Brother Lingtian, what happened after that? Why would that Di Yong be so kind as to let all of you go? Han Shu and I asked. That Di Yong was killed by Duan Lingtian. Before Duan Lingtian could speak, Wang Yu had already answered. Di killed? Upon hearing Wang Yu's words, Han Shu and I was stunned. When she looked at Duan Lingtian again, her eyes were shining with disbelief. Brother Lingtian, you've taken the Devil Seal tablet back? Han Shu and I asked through voice transmission. This was the only possibility she could think of. Based on what Duan Lingtian had said earlier, she could deduce that Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, was at least at the mortal shedding stage. However, such a person had died in Duan Lingtian's hands. If one were to use common sense to deduce this, they would not be able to figure it out. At this moment, she recalled the Devil Seal tablet. The Devil Seal tablet that was secretly swapped by Zhou Yi, Emperor Wu's direct disciple. She had learned about this when she went a lost stone forest with Little White. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and replied through voice transmission. I've already killed Zhou Yi and taken the Devil Seal tablet back before you arrived at the Hidden Fog Island. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that Han Shu and I knew about the Devil Seal tablet. She was from the Dao Martial Saint land after all, and the Devil Seal tablet was a super saint weapon in the 10 Great Saint weapon ranking. It was famous in the entire Dao Martial Saint land. He was not surprised that she knew the Devil Seal tablet was in his hands. Martial Emperor Shi from Lost Stone Forest had told him before that he had told Xuanai about the Devil Seal tablet. Although Emperor Wu did not know that it was the Devil Seal tablet, it was easy for Xuanai to figure it out with her intelligence. He was not surprised that he had found the Devil Seal tablet. With his current ability, unless he used the Devil Seal tablet, it was impossible for him to kill a powerful devil cultivator who had entered the mortal shedding stage. Brother Lingtian, you must keep the Devil Seal tablet well. It's fine on Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. However, if people know that you have the Devil Seal tablet in the Dao Martial Saint land, countless people will do whatever it takes to get it. Han Shu and I continued to remind him through voice transmission. Her expression was grave. Understood. Duan Lingtian nodded. He had already mentally prepared himself for what Xuanai said. When he arrived at the Dao Martial Saint Land in the future, he would not use the Devil Seal Tablet unless he could guarantee that the Devil Seal Tablet would not leak out. Brother Lingtian, why don't we kill Wang Yu? After all, he saw how you killed Di Yong with the Devil Seal Tablet. Han Shu and I said through voice transmission. There's no need. Duan Lingtian shook his head and said through voice transmission, he doesn't know about the Devil Seal Tablet, and he doesn't know that I killed Di Yong because I used the Devil Seal Tablet. In his eyes, I might be hiding my cultivation base. If that's the case, I'll ask him to swear on the 99 heavenly tribulation that he won't tell anyone that you killed Di Yong. Han Shu and I said. Before Duan Lingtian could react, she had already forced Wang Yu to swear on the 99 heavenly tribulation that he would not tell anyone that he killed Di Yong. Wang Yu was already wary of Han Shu and I, who was powerful enough to kill the first island master of Coral Island. Moreover, Duan Lingtian had saved his life by killing Di Yong. Naturally, he had no reason to harm Duan Lingtian. Therefore, he cooperated and swore an oath. He would not tell anyone that Duan Lingtian had killed Di Yong. Duan Lingtian was in a daze when he told Han Shu and I about what happened earlier. He did not expect that the island master of Half Moon Island, the leader of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands, would die in his hands. One must know that the island master of Half Moon Island had entered the mortal shedding stage and was above the peak of Emperor Wu's stage. Moreover, his true form was a divine dragon. However, if I don't have the Devil Seal Tablet, even if there are 1,000 or 10,000 of me, I'm afraid I won't be enough to fill the gap between Di Yong's teeth. Duan Lingtian knew this very well. The reason he was able to kill Di Yong and suppress Di Yong's soul was all because of the Devil Seal Tablet in his hands. Naturally, it was also because Di Yong was a devil cultivator. If Di Yong was not a devil cultivator but a normal martial or Dao cultivator, the Devil Seal Tablet would not be able to restrain him at all. Duan Lingtian would not be able to kill him. However, if Di Yong was not a devil cultivator, none of this would have happened today. Duan Lingtian shook his head when he thought about this. Everything that happened today seemed to be preordained by the heavens. Perhaps, until his soul was devoured and suppressed, Di Yong still could not figure out why he was so unlucky to have encountered the nemesis of devil cultivators, the Devil Seal Tablet. If he knew that Duan Lingtian had the Devil Seal Tablet, he would have lured Duan Lingtian away like how he lured Han Xuanai away. Xuanai, what's the highest cultivation base of a devil cultivator that I can suppress with the Devil Seal Tablet? Duan Lingtian asked through voice transmission. Brother Lingtian, you're at the innate stage now. You can suppress any devil cultivator at the mortal shedding stage with the Devil Seal Tablet. Han Xuanai said, what if it's a Saint Rudiment stage devil cultivator? Duan Lingtian asked again. With your current cultivation base, Brother Lingtian, even if you activate the Devil Seal Tablet, the most you can do is make him hesitate to attack. You won't be able to suppress him at all. Han Xuanai said. Duan Lingtian was disappointed when he heard Han Xuanai's words. When I cultivate to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage, which is also the peak of the innate stage, will I be able to suppress a Saint Rudiment stage devil cultivator with the Devil Seal Tablet? Duan Lingtian asked again. No. Chapter 1330. Duan Lingtian gained a deeper understanding of the Devil Seal Tablet from Han Xuanai. Even someone who has just broken through to the innate stage can use the Devil Seal Tablet to suppress a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator? The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched violently when he found out. A person who had just broken through to the innate stage was at the innate spirit refinement stage, which was equivalent to the void prying stage on Cloud Continent. A void prying stage martial artist could kill someone like Di Yong with the Devil Seal Tablet. The Devil Seal Tablet is only one of the 10 great Super Saint weapons on the 10 great Saint weapons ranking, and it's already so heaven-defying. The other 9 Super Saint weapons that are on par with it must be around the same level. Duan Lingtian's heart was filled with shock when he thought of this. At the same time, he yearned for the other 9 Super Saint weapons on the 10 Great Saint weapons ranking. It'll be great if I can get another one. Duan Lingtian was daydreaming in his heart. Duan Lingtian. The demon beast that Di Yong transformed into looks a little like the legendary divine dragon. Do you think the legendary divine dragon really exists? Wang Yu asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Dragon? You mean Di Yong isn't human? Before Duan Lingtian could speak, Han Shuanai had already looked at Wang Yu in shock. She did not hear Duan Lingtian mention this earlier. Duan Lingtian only mentioned Di Yong's actions. Yes, he's not human. This time, Duan Lingtian answered Han Shuanai. At the same time, he looked at Wang Yu and said, the true form he transformed into is indeed a divine dragon, a real divine dragon. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel a little emotional when he reached the end of his sentence. Duan Lingtian had a different feeling towards the divine dragon. In his previous life on Earth, in his hometown, China, the dragon was a spiritual symbol that symbolized the more than 1 billion compatriots in China. On Earth, the Chinese were also known as the descendants of the dragon. Of course, the dragon referred to here was the Eastern dragon god in ancient Chinese myths and legends, not the dragon in the eyes of Western people. In the eyes of Duan Lingtian, the winged dragons in the eyes of the Western people were just some big bats. He was not qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as the legendary Eastern dragon god in his homeland. Apart from that, the cultivation method he was practicing in this life, the 9 Dragons War sovereign technique, was not directly related to the word dragon, but it was indirectly related. When Wang Yu heard Duan Lingtian's words, he turned pale with fright and his heart was filled with shock. Duan Lingtian looked at Han Shuanai and asked, Shuanai, are there dragons in the Dao Martial Saint Land? Brother Lingtian, how do you know about the dragons? Han Shuanai was a little surprised. In fact, not everyone knew about the dragons even in the Dao Martial Saint Land. This was because the divine dragons kept a low profile to the extent that not many people knew about their existence. Naturally, this did not mean that the divine dragons were isolated from the world. On the contrary, the members of the dragons would be chased out to train as soon as they reached adulthood. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, the people you passed by on the bustling street might be a member of the dragons. However, as long as the members of the dragons did not reveal their true forms, nobody would know they were divine dragons. The dragons had their own rules as well. They were not allowed to reveal their true forms unless they encountered a life-or-death situation, and no one from the clan could come to their rescue. Any member of the dragons who dared to violate the rules would be captured by the dragon's law enforcement team and imprisoned in the dragon's prison valley for the rest of their lives. Due to this reason, very few members of the dragons dared to reveal their true forms outside and expose their identities. Naturally, it was only very few of them. There were also a small number of dragons who were punished after their identities were exposed. They were imprisoned in the dragon prison valley for the rest of their lives. I heard it from a devil cultivator, Duan Lingtian said. Devil cultivator? Han Shuanai frowned. Brother Lingtian, you know a devil cultivator? Duan Lingtian nodded and told Han Shuanai about Wang Ba and how Wang Ba was trying to seize Di Yong's divine dragon's body. A devil cultivator from the Devil Seal Tablet? The Saint Stage powerhouse who once opened 59 Saint Veins? Han Shuanai said cautiously, Brother Lingtian, none of the devil cultivators are simple. Since Wang Ba's remnant soul has left your body, don't get too close to him in the future. As a member of the Dao Martial Saint Land, Han Shuanai, naturally, knew what a devil cultivator meant. Although not all devil cultivators were villains, 9 out of 10 villains in the Dao Martial Saint Land were devil cultivators. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, devil cultivators were hated by almost everyone. Naturally, this only applied to weak devil cultivators. Even if a powerful devil cultivator walked on the bustling street, not only would nobody dare to offend him, but nobody would dare to gossip about him as well. The Dao Martial Saint Land was also a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded, but he was not worried at all. He had the Devil Seal Tablet in his hand. How could he be afraid of a devil cultivator? If Wang Ba's soul was hidden in someone else's body, the Devil Seal Tablet might not be able to do anything to him. However, now that he had occupied a new body, the Devil Seal Tablet would be able to suppress him. Brother Lingtian, you said earlier that Di Yong's true form is a black divine dragon, right? Han Shuanai asked when she recalled this. Duan Lingtian nodded again. It seems like De Yong's a devil dragon. Han Shu and I took a deep breath and said in disbelief, how's it possible that a devil dragon is still alive? Moreover, he managed to reach the mortal shedding stage in such an environment. When she reached the end of her sentence, there was only dread on her face. Devil dragon? Duan Lingtian was stunned. Xuanai, what's the difference between a devil dragon and a divine dragon? In essence, there's no difference. A devil dragon is still a divine dragon. However, a devil dragon is considered a variant among the divine dragons. It's a mutant divine dragon. Han Shu and I continued, all devil dragons are divine dragons that have been devilified. This kind of divine dragon is not tolerated by the dragons. Once it appears, it'll be executed as soon as it's born. Executed? Duan Lingtian was shocked. There's a rumor in the Dao Martial Saintland. A long time ago, the first devil dragon was born among the dragons. It was the appearance of that devil dragon that almost caused the extinction of the dragons. Because of this, they recuperated for several tens of thousands of years before they finally recovered. Han Shu and I said, a devil dragon caused the extinction of the dragons? Is it that powerful? Duan Lingtian was even more shocked. It's not that it's powerful. It's just that as long as it's alive, as long as it stays among the dragons, it will subtly devilify the other dragons. Han Shu and I said, rumor has it that it devilified almost half of the dragons, causing an unprecedented civil war among the dragons. That civil war caused the dragons to almost disappear from the Dao Martial Saintland. It was only several tens of thousands of years later that they began to reappear again. Han Shu and I finished her sentence in one breath. Just because of this, as long as the dragons are born, they'll be killed immediately? Duan Lingtian asked again.
Yes.
Han Shu and I nodded. The dragons learned their lesson from the past and began to set rules. As long as a devil dragon is born among the dragons, they'll have to kill it immediately to prevent future troubles. Naturally, it's not that easy for a devil dragon to be born. It's said that even after 1,000 years, there might not be a single devil dragon born. Han Shu and I said, once taken in by someone, for 10 years he's afraid of straw ropes. Duan Lingtian sighed. Brother Lingtian, the devil dragon you saw earlier, how many claws did it have on each of its claws? Han Shu and I suddenly asked as though she had recalled something. 5. Duan Lingtian said. 5. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Han Shu and I was shocked. Brother Lingtian, are you sure? I'm sure. Duan Lingtian nodded. Oh my god. That devil dragon is actually a direct descendant of the dragons. Han Shu and I sucked in a breath of cold air and muttered, Wang Ba did say that it's a direct descendant of the dragons. Xuanai, you only heard the number of claws on its claws, and you know that it's a direct descendant of the dragons? Duan Lingtian was rather curious about this. Brother Lingtian, among the dragons, according to the purity of their bloodline, the dragons are divided into 3 levels. Ordinary dragons are 3-clawed divine dragons. 3-clawed divine dragons are just ordinary members of the dragons. Their innate talent and strength are ordinary. Of course, saying that their innate talent and strength are ordinary is only relative to the other dragons. Han Shu and I patiently explained. Above the 3-clawed divine dragon is the 4-clawed divine dragon. The 4-clawed divine dragon is usually an important figure among the dragons. For example, the elders and stewards are all 4-clawed divine dragons. Above the 4-clawed divine dragon is the 5-clawed divine dragon, which has the highest status among the dragons. The 5-clawed divine dragon is a direct descendant of the dragons and has a lofty status. In every generation of the dragon's patriarch is a 5-clawed divine dragon. Only a 5-clawed divine dragon can subdue the other dragons. At the end of her explanation, Han Shu and I continued. According to the rumors I heard, the 5-clawed divine dragon of the dragons has always had 9 heads and has never changed. Only when the old 5-clawed divine dragon dies or ascends will a new 5-clawed divine dragon be born. A 5-clawed devil dragon is a rare sight that only appears once in 10,000 years. Han Shu and I said, and the first devil dragon that appeared in the history of the dragons is said to be a 5-clawed devil dragon, a direct descendant of the dragons. Duan Lingtian did not expect that. There was such a division among the members of the dragons. 3-clawed divine dragon, 4-clawed divine dragon, 5-clawed divine dragon. And the first time he saw a real divine dragon, he saw a 5-clawed divine dragon. Moreover, it was a 5-clawed devil dragon. According to Xuanai, a 5-clawed devil dragon was rarely seen in 10,000 years. That's strange. Since the dragons have a rule, all devil dragons must be killed in their infancy. Then, why is De Yong still alive? And why did he leave the Dao Martial Saint Land and come here? Chapter 1331. I don't know about that. Perhaps some of the direct descendants of the dragons felt that it was a pity to kill him, so they felt sorry for him. Han Xuanai speculated, it's precisely because of this that they sent it out of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Otherwise, let alone an adolescent 5-clawed divine dragon, even if it's an adult 5-clawed divine dragon, the dragon clan wouldn't have sent it so far away. The 5-clawed divine dragon inherited the bloodline of the dragons. It was the root of the dragons. If it was not for the fact that the 5-clawed devil dragon was dangerous, the dragons would not have abandoned him. Underage? Xuanai. Do you mean De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, is still an underage 5-clawed divine dragon? Duan Lingtian asked in shock. His true form is more than 100 meters long, so he'll be around 50 years old at most. The 5-clawed divine dragon will only reach adulthood when he's 100 years old. Han Xuanai said. He'll only reach adulthood when he's 100 years old? The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched violently. Dragons are different from humans. They already have a lifespan of 1,000 years when they're born before they even start cultivating. Once they break through to the mortal shedding stage, they'll have a lifespan of 3,000 years. Han Xuanai continued, when they break through to the Saint Rudiment stage, they'll have a lifespan of 10,000 years. When they enter the Saint Rudiment stage, they'll have a lifespan as long as heaven and earth. Duan Lingtian was speechless when he heard that. This was much more heaven-defying than the other clans. Take humans, for example. Before they reached the Emperor Wu stage, they only had a lifespan of about 100 years. When they broke through to the Emperor Wu stage, they only had a lifespan of about 200 years. It was incomparable. Dragons are really God's favorites. Duan Lingtian exclaimed. Indeed, you can call them God's favorites. However, it's fortunate that their reproductive ability is very weak. Otherwise, this world would have been ruled by them, Han Xuanai said. Duan Lingtian agreed with her. If the dragons were as strong as humans, not only the Dao Martial Saint Land, but even the 3 great mortal continents would have been ruled by them. At that time, the other clans' fate of being enslaved by them. Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai were communicating using voice transmission. From the beginning until the end, Wang Yu could not hear them at all. Duan Lingtian, before he could finish, he interrupted himself. Duan Lingtian's SSSSS TTTS, TSS Dragons, SS, the same time T's SA8 TSSS SSS2. It S, SSSSSS, 8 SSS, A's Dragons, 8 A's Dragons, its Dragon S, was a 5-clawed divine dragon. However, unlike ordinary divine dragons, its body was completely black, and the black scales on its body were gleaming with a cold luster. Its crimson eyes were staring at Duan Lingtian intently. Boy, you're really my lucky star. Not only did you find me the body of a direct descendant of the dragons, but it's also a 5-clawed devil dragon. This 5-clawed devil dragon walks the devil Dao, so it's the most suitable body for a devil cultivator. The 5-clawed devil dragon spoke in human language. Its voice was filled with excitement. It was none other than Wang Ba, the devil cultivator who had occupied the 5-clawed devil dragon's body. Although Wang Ba had asked Duan Lingtian to find him the body of a direct descendant of the dragons, it was just a casual request. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, the dragon's body was undoubtedly one of the strongest among all clans. This was especially true for the body of a 5-clawed divine dragon, a direct descendant of the dragons. It did not cross Wang Ba's mind that following Duan Lingtian would allow him to encounter the body of a 5-clawed divine dragon. Moreover, it was the body of a 5-clawed devil dragon. A five-clawed devil dragon was naturally devilized and walked the devil Dao. To Wang Ba, a former saint stage devil cultivator, the body of a five-clawed devil dragon was the best body in the world. It was the most suitable body for him now. Bastard, you've completely taken over his body? Duan Lingtian asked. Bastard? The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, whether it was Han Xuanai or Wang Yu who was standing at the side, the corners of their mouths twitched violently. Han Xuanai burst out laughing. She looked at Duan Lingtian and asked, Brother Lingtian, didn't you say his name is Wang Ba? Why did you call him bastard? Isn't it the same? Duan Lingtian said innocently. The same? When Han Xuanai saw Duan Lingtian's innocent expression, she could no longer hold it in and laughed out loud. Wasn't bastard a turtle? Humph. Boy, I've decided. From now on, I'm no longer called Wang Ba. The five-clawed devil dragon hovered in the air. Its eyes were red and filled with blood energy. Its voice was deafening and loud. You're no longer called bastard? Then what's your name? Duan Lingtian asked. Wasn't this fellow called Di Yong? I think this name is not bad. From today onward, I'll be called Di Yong. The five-clawed devil dragon continued to speak in human language. Di Yong? This name is not bad. It's much better than your previous name. Han Xuanai smiled. Of course. If this name doesn't sound good, why would I change it? Little girl, you have good taste. The five-clawed devil dragon raised its head proudly and looked at Duan Lingtian. Boy, remember this. From now on, I'll be called Di Yong. You can call me Lord Di Yong or Senior Di Yong. Duan Lingtian ignored it and asked indifferently, Why haven't you transformed yet? Humph. I haven't completely occupied his body yet. Even if I lose the dragon soul, I'll still need some time to completely occupy the body of a five-clawed devil dragon. This saint came out to tell you. This saint needs some time to completely take over this body. The former Wang Ba and current Di Yong said. This Di Yong was no longer the former island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong. Instead, he was the devil cultivator from the Dao Martial Saint Land, Wang Ba, who had changed his name to Di Yong. After Di Yong finished speaking, he did not wait for Duan Lingtian's response. His body that was more than 100 meters long trembled and hid in the mountain mist again, disappearing before the eyes of Duan Lingtian and the other two. Compared to Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai's calmness, Wang Yu was completely dumbfounded. He could not regain his senses for a long time. Was Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, not already dead? How did he come back to life? He could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. At this moment, Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai descended from the sky. They found the 85 dried corpses whose vital essence was sucked dry by Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, and kept their spatial rings. As for the profundity fragments, Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai did not let them go either. They had no use for the profundity fragments, but they could leave them for the other people in Lingtian sect. In fact, some of these 85 dried corpses were at the Emperor Wu stage. They even had Emperor stage profundity fragments in their bodies. If you didn't come to Half Moon Island, you wouldn't have died. What a pity. If there's an afterlife, it's better for you to be an ordinary person. Duan Lingtian sighed. At the same time, he lifted his leg and stomped on the ground. At once, the ground trembled and ferocious cracks appeared. It was like a spider web that covered the 85 dried corpses. In the next moment, all of the dried corpses fell into the cracks. With Duan Lingtian's help, they were buried deep underground. Now, they could finally rest in peace. Xuanai, let's go. Duan Lingtian called out to Han Xuanai and Wang Yu before they headed outside. 88 people came in, and only 3 left. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. Duan Lingtian, just now, Wang Yu still could not figure out what had just happened. He could not help but ask Duan Lingtian. Before he could finish his sentence, Duan Lingtian had already interrupted him and said, I know what you want to ask. The island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, is indeed dead. He was killed by me. As for the dragon just now, it's just Di Yong's body. A friend of mine has taken over his body. Duan Lingtian said, Soul possession? Wang Yu was shocked. You even know about soul possession? Duan Lingtian was slightly taken aback. Soul possession referred to using one's soul to take over another person's body. Generally speaking, only Emperor Wu powerhouses whose souls had been specially tempered could do this. If an ordinary Emperor Wu powerhouse's soul had not been specially tempered, even if they had reached the peak of the Emperor Wu realm, they would not be able to perform soul possession. On the contrary, even a first-level Emperor Wu realm martial artist could perform soul possession as long as his soul had been specially tempered, just like Emperor Wu of Samsara back in the day. Back then, Emperor Wu of Samsara wanted to seize Duan Lingtian's body to begin his third life of cultivation. Unfortunately, before he could perform soul possession, Ling Tian's soul from Earth had already replaced Duan Lingtian's soul and taken over Duan Lingtian's body. When Samsara Emperor Wu of Samsara found out about this, he was flustered and exasperated. He wanted to destroy Ling Tian's soul. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed and only ended up turning into ashes. The three lives rebirth technique that Emperor Wu of Samsara cultivates mainly tempers the soul. If it were me, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to perform soul possession even if I had broken through to the peak of the Emperor Wu realm. Duan Lingtian knew this very well in his heart. I've read about soul possession in an ancient book. It said that a long time ago on Cloud Continent, there were some Emperor Wu powerhouses who specialized in tempering the soul. They would usually perform soul possession before they reached the end of their lifespan and take over another person's body to obtain a new life. Wang Yu answered Duan Lingtian's question. Unfortunately, there were very few people who succeeded. It's fine if they succeeded in soul possession, but if they failed, their soul would be destroyed. When Wang Yu reached the end of his sentence, he sighed. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was aware of what Wang Yu had said. It was precisely because of this that Samsara Emperor Wu of Samsara had to find the best opportunity to seize Duan Lingtian's body. Otherwise, he would be in danger of his soul being destroyed. Unfortunately, he encountered the soul of Ling Tian, who came from Earth, and his soul was destroyed. However, Samsara Emperor Wu was Samsara Emperor Wu after all. His soul had been tempered many times and was very strong. Even if his soul was destroyed, he still retained his lifelong memories. Chapter 1332. Soul possession is extremely dangerous. Even if it's a saint stage powerhouse, other than those top existences, they wouldn't dare to say that they'll succeed 100% of the time. Han Shu and I snorted. I'm afraid the top existences among the saint stage powerhouses don't need soul possession, Duan Lingtian said. That's right. To a saint stage powerhouse, soul possession doesn't have much meaning. Han Shu and I nodded. Ordinary people would only risk soul possession when they were nearing the end of their lifespan. Since they were going to die anyway, they might as well give it their all. The top existences among the saint stage powerhouses had endless lifespan, so they did not need soul possession at all, unless they were devil cultivators who had lost their bodies after being suppressed by the devil seal tablet, just like Wang Ba and now Di Yong. Saint stage powerhouse? Wang Yu did not understand what Duan Lingtian and Han Shu and I meant by saint stage powerhouse. His face was filled with confusion. You can ask your master about saint stage powerhouses. Han Shu and I glanced at Wang Yu and said nonchalantly, however, other than that, I don't want you to tell him about what happened here. It won't do you any good if you tell him. This matter involved the five-clawed devil dragon. It was a matter of great importance. Han Shu and I knew this very well. Although the five-clawed devil dragon was abandoned by the dragons, since it did not die in its infancy, it must have been a direct descendant of the dragons who felt compassion for it. That direct descendant of the dragons had quite a high status. If he knew the five-clawed devil dragon was dead and its body was taken away, who knew how angry he would be? That was an adult five-clawed divine dragon. It was at least at the saint stage. If it was enraged, it could do anything. Soon after, Han Shu and I told Duan Lingtian about her concerns. This matter is indeed a little tricky. We must think of a foolproof plan to deal with it. Once an adult five-clawed divine dragon is enraged, it's no joke. Duan Lingtian ceaselessly racked his brain, intending to find a solution. Soon, he thought of a way. When he mentioned this to Han Shu and I agreed. That's a good idea. This way, we won't anger the adult five-clawed divine dragon. Although the force behind Han Shuanai was quite powerful in the Dao Martial Saint Land, it was still a force to be reckoned with. However, they dared not go head-to-head with the Dragon Clan. Killing a five-clawed divine dragon was not difficult for the forces behind Han Shuanai, but the problem was that killing a five-clawed divine dragon would also infuriate all the dragons. The dragons were famous among the Saint stage powerhouses in the Dao Martial Saint Land for being protective of their own. Outside the cloud-shrouded mountains, the people from the three outer Saint Islands stood in the air, waiting quietly. The three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island stood in the air, resting with their eyes closed. All of a sudden, the three of them seemed to have noticed something as they opened their eyes abruptly. With just a glance, they saw three figures slowly appear behind the clouds and mist that covered the deep mountains in front of them. They revealed their true appearances. The two of them? How's that possible? The three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island looked at each other and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. They were not surprised that Han Shuanai was able to come out. After all, the Island Master had told them not to provoke this young lady. However, the fact that the other two had come out alive made them feel that it was somewhat inconceivable. Logically speaking, the Island Master should have sucked out all of their vital essence and turned them into dried corpses. There must be something fishy going on. The three of them took a deep breath and moved in unison toward the three people who had just come out. The three people who had come out were naturally Duan Lingtian, Han Shuanai, and Wang Yu. The moment they came out, they saw a group of people from Hidden Fog Island led by Tangzhan, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, approaching them. What's the result? Tangzhan looked at Han Shuanai with sparkling eyes that were filled with anticipation. He was very confident in Han Shuanai. That day, Han Shuanai had defeated the champion of the Coral Island martial arts competition with her own ability. Her ability was even more powerful than Duan Lingtian. From that moment on, compared to Duan Lingtian, who was the champion of the Hidden Fog Island martial arts competition, he was more optimistic about Han Shuanai. Han Shuanai shook her head. Tangzhan was stunned. He then looked at Duan Lingtian and Wang Yu, only to see both of them shaking their heads as well. What happened? Don't tell me. None of you were selected by Lord Di Yong? Tangzhan revealed a disappointed expression. Lord Di Yong's conditions for selecting his direct disciple are too harsh. We were eliminated in the first round. Wang Yu smiled bitterly. At the same time, he returned to Qing Xian Emperor Wu's side. There was a hint of bitterness in the depth of his eyes. His senior and junior brothers who had been with him for many years had died on Half Moon Island just like that. Most importantly, although he knew the cause of their deaths, he could not reveal it. Otherwise, not only him, but even his master, Qing Xian Emperor Wu, would be implicated. He could choose not to believe Duan Lingtian's words. However, he had to believe Han Shuanai's words. Even if Han Shuanai did not tell him the exact reason, he dared not take the risk. Brother Ling Tian, you and Miss Xuanai were eliminated? Martial Emperor Ling Xian, Yang Hui, asked in disbelief. In fact, he was not the only one. Even the group, including Qing Xian Emperor Wu, was in disbelief. Even she was eliminated. Who else can become the Island Master's direct disciple? They had witnessed Han Shuanai's ability, putting aside the fact that she killed the first Island Master of Coral Island with the help of an external force. With her own ability, she killed the number one of the Coral Island martial arts competition in one move. It was enough to show how powerful she was. She was the best among the 90 people from the 3 overseas holy islands. It seems like there's still hope for our Sky Reef Island. The first Island Master of Sky Reef Island laughed. Among the 85 people who haven't come out yet, the most powerful one should be the number one of our Sky Reef Island martial arts competition. That's right. It seems like Sir Di Yong's direct disciple isn't just based on his ability. The elder of Sky Reef Island who came to join in the fun said. Hearing the first Island Master's laughter, Duan Lingtian glanced at him nonchalantly and thought to himself, if he knows that the 30 people from his Sky Reef Island are all dead, I wonder if he'll still be able to laugh. What's going on? The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island looked at Duan Lingtian and Wang Yu from time to time. They could not figure out how these two people came out. Vice Island Masters. At this moment, a voice sounded in their ears, causing them to shiver. At the same time, They all turned to look at the purple figure in the distance. The person who condensed his origin energy was none other than Duan Lingtian. Island Master Di Yong has successfully absorbed the vital essence of the other 85 people. He asked me to inform all of you that he'll be in closed-door cultivation in the mountain for a while. Duan Lingtian continued. When the three of them heard this, they stared at Duan Lingtian as though they had just seen a ghost. He actually knew that their island master Di Yong of Half Moon Island had absorbed the vital essence? Why? Are all of you surprised? Duan Lingtian continued. Actually, it was a close call today. Wang Yu and I were almost sucked dry by Island Master Di Yong. Fortunately, Xuanai appeared in time and saved both of us. For Xuanai's sake, Island Master Di Yong spared Wang Yu and my life. However, he also asked us not to spread the news of him absorbing the vital essence. Duan Lingtian finished his sentence in one breath. I see. When the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island heard this, they glanced at Han Xuanai and came to a realization. They did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words at all. If that was not the case, they did not believe Duan Lingtian and Wang Yu would be able to escape. After all, their island master Di Yong of Half Moon Island was a person who was above the peak of Emperor Wu's stage. Although the three of them were at the peak of Emperor Wu's stage, they were no match for Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, even if they joined forces. The three of us won't be involved in what happened after that. Island Master Di Yong asked all of you to clean up the mess. Duan Lingtian's voice transmission entered the ears of the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island again. The three of them nodded. Just like that, the matter was resolved. The three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island did not know that their Island Master Di Yong of Half Moon Island had been killed and that his body had been possessed. They did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words at all. The reason they did not doubt him was because they believed in Di Yong's ability almost blindly. There were a total of 88 people from the three overseas Saint Islands who entered the deep mountain. Naturally, it caused a huge uproar when only 3 of them survived. The first island masters of the 3 overseas Saint Islands demanded an explanation from Half Moon Island. However, in the end, they could only swallow their anger in the face of the powerful Half Moon Island. The recruitment of direct disciples by the island master of Half Moon Island came to an end. The people from the 3 overseas Saint Islands left one after another. However, Duan Lingtian and the rest did not return with the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, Tang Zhen. They stayed for the time being. Yang Hui brought the people from Lingxian Peak and left with Tang Zhen. Wang Yu also left with Qing Xian's Emperor Wu. To him, the matter had been resolved. What he needed to do next was to forget what had happened and act as if nothing had happened. However, to Duan Lingtian, the matter had not been resolved. Now, all we have to do is wait for him to completely take over Di Yong's body and become the island master of Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian mumbled. For the next period of time, Duan Lingtian did not idle around. Other than accompanying the 2 ladies and occasionally dealing with the 3 little fellows, he spent the rest of his time cultivating. As for Han Xuanai, she was also cultivating. She was trying to break through to the mortal shedding stage. Currently, she was only a step away from the mortal shedding stage. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. On this day, Duan Lingtian was alone. He held the Saint's Stone in his hand and sat cross-legged in the air above the calm ocean to cultivate. The 9 Dragons War Sovereign Techniques Divine Dragon Form's mental cultivation method was circulating. His cultivation base was improving every second. Whoosh! Unknowingly, an old figure appeared in the sky not far away. Chapter 1333. After the old man appeared, he did not even greet Duan Lingtian. Instead, he pounced on him ruthlessly. It was obvious he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian in one hit. The 7-foot-long spear in his hand was shooting out a spear ray that was several feet long. It caused the air to tremble as though it could pierce through everything. Boom, 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 boom. As the sound of air exploding reverberated in the air, the spear ray that was several feet long appeared in front of Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. It looked like it was going to pierce through Duan Lingtian's body. Oh no! The moment the old man struck with his spear, Duan Lingtian had already regained his senses. However, before he could react, the spear ray that shot out from the old man's 7-foot-long spear had already arrived in front of him. It was only a foot away from him. He had no time to dodge at all. Bang! A loud bang reverberated in the air, accompanied by a rolling shockwave that swept out in all directions. The top and the surroundings were still fine, but the sea below was turbulent. The originally calm sea seemed to have been smashed by a huge rock. Waves splashed up and shot up into the sky. It was a beautiful sight against the scorching sun. However, regardless of whether it was Duan Lingtian or the old man who suddenly appeared, they were not in the mood to watch this. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was sent flying by a stone tablet like an arrow that was shot out from a bow. The moment the stone tablet landed on his body, a terrifying energy passed through the stone tablet and landed on his body. It caused his lungs to tremble, and he felt intense pain all over his body. If it was not for his strong will, he would have fainted. Duan Lingtian, who was sent flying spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, finally caught his breath. He immediately took out a royal-grade resurrection pill and consumed it. The pill's effect dissipated, and his injuries started to heal. However, due to the severity of his injuries, he could not fully recover even after consuming the royal-grade resurrection pill. At this speed, I'll need at least 30 breaths to fully recover. I'll have to stall for time. Duan Lingtian's thoughts spun as he made his decision. Thanks to you. Duan Lingtian's gaze quickly landed on the Devil Seal tablet that flew out with him. Earlier, it was he who had taken out the Devil Seal tablet in time and allowed it to block the spear for him. If not for that, he would have been killed. After flying for some distance, Duan Lingtian finally came to a halt. He looked at the old figure who caught up with him immediately and mocked. The second island master of the Hidden Fog Island sneakily attacked a nobody like me. Don't you think it's embarrassing? As long as I can kill you and avenge my son. So what if I become the laughingstock of the world? The old man who sneaked an attack on Duan Lingtian was the second island master of Hidden Fog Island, Chen Bei. Ever since Tang Zhan, the first island master of the Hidden Fog Island, had led the people back to the Hidden Fog Island, Chen Bei had wanted to kill Duan Lingtian to avenge his son. He thought the first island master would not interfere at that time. However, he did not expect Duan Lingtian to stay on Half Moon Island. Moreover, he heard that there was a mysterious young lady by Duan Lingtian's side who could kill the first island master of Coral Island with a piece of yellow paper that was filled with scribbles. The first island master of Coral Island's ability was on par with the first island master of Hidden Fog Island. At that moment, he felt the pressure. However, he still came to Half Moon Island. He had arrived at Half Moon Island a few days ago. Today, he finally found a chance to ensure that the young lady by Duan Lingtian's side would not appear. I didn't expect you to have a defensive spirit weapon. You're lucky, but next time, your luck won't be so good. Chen Bei sneered. Chen Bei, do you know why I killed your son? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice. He needed time to recover from his injuries. Otherwise, he would not be a match for Chen Bei. Chen Bei, the second island master of Hidden Fog Island, was on Emperor Wu's stage 8th level. Although his ability had improved by leaps and bounds in the past 6 months to the point that even Han Shu and I was shocked, it was impossible for him to fight Chen Bei with his injured body. I don't care why you killed my son. Today will be the day you, Duan Lingtian, die. A cold gleam flashed across Chen Bei's eyes. He shook the 7-foot-long spear in his hand, and a terrifying origin energy swept out. Along with the skyrocketing profundity energy, it caused the air to tremble. The movement of the spear shook the air. It was like a stone falling into a calm lake, setting off circles of ripples. How powerful! Upon seeing that, Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked. As expected of the second island master of Hidden Fog Island, Chen Bei's ability is top-notch even among the 8th-level Emperor Wu stage martial artists. Although the heaven and earth energy would no longer consolidate into the heaven and earth phenomenon after leaving Cloud Continent, Duan Lingtian could faintly sense how terrifying Chen Bei's ability was. Chen Bei, before your son died, he told me something. Do you want to know? Duan Lingtian gasped inwardly when he saw Chen Bei was about to attack. However, He maintained a calm expression on his face as he spoke slowly. It was Duan Lingtian's calmness that stopped Chen Bei from attacking. What is it? The cold gleam in Chen Bei's eyes remained. He raised his eyebrows and asked in a deep voice, Chen Bei, you should at least show some sincerity if you want to know your son's last words, right? You look like you're about to kill me. I'm so scared that I can't even remember what your son said. Duan Lingtian glanced at the 7-foot-long spear in Chen Bei's hand and said, Why? Are you trying to stall for time? Chen Bei smirked. It's useless. Even if you release the communication jade slip and I can't catch up with it, I'm confident I can kill you before that little girl arrives. Stall for time? Communication jade slip? Duan Lingtian shook his head. Chen Bei, I have to say that your imagination is really rich. Do you think I don't know what you're talking about? Spit it out if you have something to say. Chen Bei snorted. His eyes stared deadly at Duan Lingtian. Don't play tricks in front of me. If you do anything, I'll kill you in an instant. I believe you have the ability. However, you should at least give me some time to think about it, right? Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. Currently, 10 breaths had passed. The injuries in his body had healed by 1/3. The royal-grade resurrection pill's medicinal effect was still spreading and healing the injuries in his body. His injuries were recovering at an extremely fast speed. He still needed close to 20 breaths to recover to his prime. The surface of the sea that was initially turbulent gradually regained its calm. High up in the sky, Duan Lingtian stood there quietly with a slight frown on his face. He seemed to be thinking about something. Meanwhile, Chen Bei, who was standing opposite him, was glaring at him. He was afraid Duan Lingtian would play some trick on him. Chen Bei held the 7-foot-long spear tightly in his hand. Faint origin energy was about to burst out. If anything went wrong, he would instantly unleash his full force to kill Duan Lingtian. My patience is limited. Another 10 breaths passed. Chen Bei's face turned grave as he said coldly, Wait a little longer. Duan Lingtian's frown deepened. He could not be bothered with Chen Bei's gloomy expression. His injuries were only a little bit away from being healed. Once he was fully healed, he would have the strength to fight with Chen Bei. In the past 6 months, his strength had improved in all aspects. He wanted to see how much his strength had improved. He treated Chen Bei as his touchstone. The last 10 breaths passed in the blink of an eye. Duan Lingtian could clearly feel that the injuries in his body had completely healed. At this moment, he only felt that his entire body was filled with strength. You tricked me. Chen Bei's expression changed drastically when he saw Duan Lingtian relaxing his frown and a smile appearing on his face. In a fit of rage, the origin energy in his hand skyrocketed. Along with various profundities, it merged into the 7-foot-long spear. At once, the 7-foot-long spear trembled. A powerful energy spread out as though it could destroy everything. Whoosh! Faced with the enraged Chen Bei, a bow and arrow appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand out of thin air. He placed the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring into a full moon before shooting the arrow out. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. When Chen Bei's long spear trembled and tore through the sky, the spear ray that was several tens of feet long pierced towards the place where Duan Lingtian was standing. However, Duan Lingtian had already dodged it. Body and arrow synchronization. Stepping on the rapidly shooting arrow, Duan Lingtian dodged Chen Bei's furious attack. However, his crisis was not over yet. He could hear the sound of the wind whistling behind him. Without turning his head, he could tell that Chen Bei had caught up with him. However, Chen Bei's speed was only on par with his. It was impossible for him to catch up with him. How's this possible? Chen Bei, who was chasing Duan Lingtian at full speed, had a drastic change of expression when he realized this. Disbelief filled his eyes. How can his speed be so fast? Nothing's impossible. Naturally, Duan Lingtian heard what Chen Bei said. He smirked in disdain. Chen Bei, today, I'd like to see how capable you are as the second island master of the Hidden Fog Island. Don't you want to avenge your son? I'll accompany you to the end. Duan Lingtian had already jumped down from the arrow and stood in the sky far away. He looked down at Chen Bei from afar as he taunted him. Do you think you can defeat me just because your speed is on par with mine? What a joke. Chen Bei, am not the strongest in terms of speed. Hearing Duan Lingtian's taunts, Chun Bei was instantly enraged. He roared fiercely, unwilling to lose to Duan Lingtian in terms of aura. However, before he could finish his sentence, Duan Lingtian interrupted him. Are you trying to say that your strongest point is not your speed but your attacking technique? I'd like to see it for myself. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished his sentence, he knocked an arrow on his bow. With a clang, the bowstring vibrated as he pulled the bowstring into a full moon shape again. At the same time, Duan Lingtian fixed his gaze on Chen Bei, who was dashing toward him. After confirming that he had locked onto Chen Bei, he released the arrow in his hand. Whoosh! A sharp arrow that was as black as ink pierced through the air like a black lightning bolt and went straight for Chen Bei. Its target was between Chun Bei's eyebrows. Chapter 1334. Clang. Accompanied by a thunderous whistling sound, the sound of metal clashing reverberated in the air. It was Chen Bei who had turned around and blocked Duan Lingtian's arrow at the critical moment. Although the arrow was blocked by the 7-foot-long spear in Chen Bei's hand, he was not in a good state either. His spear and his body had to bear the force of the arrow. Not only that, even the 7-foot-long spear in his hand had a deep imprint on its shaft. The quasi-royal grade spirit weapon was actually damaged. However, Chun Bei did not pay attention to that because he was already injured, and his injuries were not light. Duan Lingtian, I admit that I've underestimated you. However, do you think you can kill me with just this little bit of strength? After consuming a grade 1 life recovery pill, Chun Bei's injuries recovered a little. After he recovered, he immediately charged toward Duan Lingtian. The long spear in his hand shook, and a spear ray that was several tens of feet long appeared again. Although Duan Lingtian had injured him with his arrow earlier, as far as he was concerned, it was because he'd underestimated Duan Lingtian that caused him to be injured. Moreover, the arrow earlier was not a threat to him at all. Just this little bit of strength? When Duan Lingtian heard Chen Bei's words and saw him charging toward him with his spear, a sneer crept up on the corner of his mouth. Subsequently, he did not plan to continue dodging. With a lift of his hand, he shot another arrow. Arrow-light strike. Compared to the arrow earlier, this arrow was on a completely different level. The energy contained in it tore through the sky like a meteor falling from the sky. Clang. Another ear-piercing sound of metal clashing reverberated in the air. Accompanied by a vast and rolling shockwave, Chun Bei blocked Duan Lingtian's arrow again. However, he was not as lucky as last time. His 7-foot-long spear was broken into two. The bones in his hand that was holding the spear all the way to his shoulder were shattered. The bones around his palm, in particular, were shattered into powder. Impossible. Chen Bei was in disbelief when he saw his quasi-royal grade spear being broken just like that. However, his attention quickly fell on his crippled arm. How is this possible? His strength, how can he be so strong? To Chen Bei, the arrow that Duan Lingtian shot from behind was like the arrival of doomsday. After breaking through to elementary, the power of the meteor strike has actually increased so much. Duan Lingtian was very surprised by the effect of his arrow. It should be noted that he had only mastered the arrow-light strike, one of the offensive techniques in the colossal arrow-light arrow, to the intermediate stage 3 days ago. The minor accomplishment was the second stage of the Saint grade martial arts. After reaching this level, Duan Lingtian felt that its power had increased by several times compared to before. The increase was so great that it could be described as exaggerated. No, I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Chen Bei looked at Duan Lingtian, who was standing there in high spirits. His face turned even more grave as he roared in his heart. There was a hint of despair in his roar. He knew very well in his heart. He was no longer a match for Duan Lingtian. It was even more impossible for him to defeat Duan Lingtian in the future to avenge his son. Die. I want you to die. Duan Lingtian, I want you to die. In the end, Chen Bei was on the brink of insanity. He lifted his uninjured hand and grabbed the 7-foot-long spear. Once again, he attacked Duan Lingtian aggressively. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. After witnessing the power of the aerolite strike that had broken through to the intermediate stage, Duan Lingtian's confidence was boosted. Facing the crazy Qinbei, he smirked in disdain. At the same time, his hands were not idle. Aerolite strike. Another arrow was shot out. This time, Qinbei, who had lost his most important arm, could not block it at all. It easily pierced through his glabella. In the next moment, a bloody hole appeared in between Qinbei's glabella. Brain matter splattered everywhere. He fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. He died with a grievance. An existence at the 8th level martial emperor stage. I actually killed him? Duan Lingtian's emotions surged. He even felt as though he was dreaming. I really didn't expect. After breaking through to the Emperor Wu stage 6, my fusion profundity and my sword profundity would be upgraded one after another. With just the aerolite strike, I can kill Qinbei so easily. Duan Lingtian did not regain his senses for a long time. In the past 6 months, Duan Lingtian's strength had improved the fastest. Even he could not explain why. In the end, he could only blame it on the Saint Stone and the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique that he cultivated. The 9th form of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, the Divine Dragon form. Ever since I've broken through to the Emperor Wu stage, I feel like the speed of my cultivation is much faster. Now, every time my cultivation base improves, the speed of my cultivation becomes faster as well. Duan Lingtian could not help but marvel at the wonders of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique after he had broken through to the Emperor Wu stage. As expected of the cultivation method that's comparable to the 3 Lives Rebirth technique in the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique is much more powerful than the top cultivation methods like the Han Bing's Divine Sword technique. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. After Qinbei caused such a ruckus, Duan Lingtian no longer had the mood to continue cultivating. He went back to accompany the 2 girls. If it was not for the fact that he planned to go to the Dao Martial Saint Land to look for his parents, he would have loved to stay by his 2 fiancées' side. Even if the Land of Love was a hero's grave, he would have accepted it. In the blink of an eye, another 6 months had passed. On this day, the entire Half-Moon Island trembled violently as though there was an earthquake. Bastard! Duan Lingtian, who was originally cultivating in his room, had his eyes lit up all of a sudden. He immediately flew out. In the past year, the reason he did not leave Half-Moon Island in a hurry was because of Wang Ba. Wang Ba, who had occupied the body of Di Yong, the island master of Half-Moon Island. However, the current Wang Ba had used the name of the original owner of the body that he had occupied, Di Yong. Outside the mountain that was shrouded in clouds all year long, the 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island stood in the air. They looked in the direction of the mountain in awe, but they did not dare to go closer. Lord Island Master is finally coming out of his closed-door cultivation. A smile appeared on the faces of the 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island at the same time. Lord Island Master's strength will definitely increase tremendously when he comes out of his closed-door cultivation this time. By then, he'll be able to snatch that treasure from the hands of that sea monster. Xiao Kuan's eyes lit up as he said with a burning expression, "That's right. In the past, Lord Island Master's strength was on par with that sea monster, so he couldn't snatch that treasure. Now that he's coming out of his closed-door cultivation, he'll definitely be able to defeat that sea monster and snatch that treasure." Speaking of which, it's really infuriating. That sea monster couldn't figure out that treasure on its own, yet it was unwilling to give it to Lord Island Master. Let's see how it's going to die this time. The other 2 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island said. Treasure? The 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island did not notice that a figure was flying above their heads as they were discussing. In the blink of an eye, it entered the mountain that was shrouded in clouds. Duan Lingtian had been waiting for a long time in the mountain. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he saw the figure coming in from outside. Xuanai, why are you only here now? Brother Lingtian, I heard the 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island talking about some treasure, Han Xuanai said with a burning gaze. Treasure? Upon hearing that, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up even more. What treasure? In his opinion, the 3 vice island masters of Half-Moon Island were at the peak of Emperor Wu stage. Something that they called a treasure must be extraordinary. I'm not too sure what kind of treasure it is. I only heard them saying that the treasure seems to be in the hands of some sea monster, and that sea monster's strength is on par with Di-Yong. Honshu and I said, so? That sea monster should be on the early stage of the mortal shedding stage, just like Di-Yong. However, since Di-Yong has absorbed the vital essence of 85 powerhouses in their prime, I'm sure he'll be able to break through to the intermediate mortal shedding stage. If Tortoise can completely occupy its body, it'll be able to inherit its power. Honshu and I continued. Duan Lingtian nodded. It's been a year. Theoretically, Tortoise should have completely occupied Di-Yong's body. Let's go in and have a look. Duan Lingtian called out to Honshu and I. Both of them went deep into the mountain. I remember that Tortoise went into hiding somewhere nearby last time. Duan Lingtian looked around and said, That's right, it's here. Honshu and I nodded. She recognized this place as well. Boy, I've told you that I've changed my name. I'm no longer Wangba, I'm now Di-Yong. Just as Han Xuanai's voice fell, a dissatisfied voice sounded from afar and approached. Soon, a sturdy black figure appeared in front of Duan Lingtian and Honshu and I. It was a tall and sturdy black-clad middle-aged man. Honshu and I was unfamiliar with this figure. However, Duan Lingtian was familiar with him. It was Di-Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, whom he had met before. Naturally, the soul of Di-Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, had been suppressed by the Devil Seal tablet. His soul at the early stage of the mortal shedding stage was destroyed by the Devil Seal tablet in just a blink of an eye. The Di-Yong standing in front of Duan Lingtian was the Di-Yong whose body was occupied by Wangba's soul. It was a brand new Di-Yong. I'm used to calling you that. I can't change it in a short period of time. Duan Lingtian shook his head in the face of Di-Yong's dissatisfaction. He then asked, Tortoise, have you completely occupied this body now? Yes. Di-Yong nodded faintly. There was a hint of dissatisfaction on his face. He was dissatisfied that Duan Lingtian still called him Tortoise until now. Tortoise, he must have broken through to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage after absorbing so much vital essence, right? Honshu and I asked as she looked at Di-Yong. Di-Yong nodded again. I've only heard of the direct descendants of the dragons, the five-clawed divine dragons. I know they're very talented. I'm curious, how many Saint Veins have you opened since you've broken through to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage? Honshu and I's eyes lit up. Chapter 1335. 23 Veins. Di-Yong's lips curled into a bright smile. 23 veins? Duan Lingtian did not feel anything when he heard Di-Yong's words, but Honshu and I was shocked. He managed to open 23 Saint Veins at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. Doesn't that mean he'll be able to open more than 70 Saint Veins when he enters the paramount mortal shedding stage? More than 70 Saint Veins. This time, Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses when he heard Honshu and I's words. His eyes widened in shock. He still remembered. The current Di-Yong and the former Wangba had said this before. During his time, the person who opened the most Saint Veins had only opened 67 Saint Veins. He had only opened 59 Saint Veins at that time. However, Xuanai said Di-Yong was able to open 70 Saint Veins? How could Duan Lingtian not be shocked? It shouldn't be a problem to open more than 70 Saint Veins. At this moment, the smile on Di-Yong's face became even brighter. As a former Saint Stage powerhouse, he knew the cultivation path of the mortal shedding stage very well. He had opened 23 Saint Veins at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. With such innate talent and the devil cultivation method he cultivated back then, he would definitely be able to open more than 70 Saint Veins when he was at the paramount mortal shedding stage. The mortal shedding stage was divided into 5 stages. The early mortal shedding stage, intermediate mortal shedding stage, mastery mortal shedding stage, and paramount mortal shedding stage. The strength of each stage was not the same. Whether it was a martial cultivator or a Dao cultivator, the Saint Veins that were opened in their bodies would be formed when they broke through to the paramount mortal shedding stage. The number of Saint Veins opened when one was at the paramount mortal shedding stage would be the number of Saint Veins opened in the future, unless there was a fortuitous encounter. Of course, such a fortuitous encounter was rare. It might not even happen once in 10,000 years. The number of Saint veins would directly affect the cultivation speed of a martial cultivator or a Tao cultivator. The more Saint veins one had, the faster one would be able to absorb the energy from heaven and earth and the energy from the Saint stones, and vice versa. Furthermore, the number of Saint veins one possessed would directly affect the strength of a martial cultivator and Tao cultivator. For martial and Tao cultivators of the same cultivation base, those with more Saint bloodlines would be stronger, and vice versa. Now, I can understand why a five-clawed devil dragon was able to topple all the dragons. The five-clawed devil dragon was definitely the most talented among the five-clawed divine dragons. Honshu and I sucked in a breath of cold air and muttered, "As far as I know, in the history of dragons, an ordinary five-clawed divine dragon could only open up 66 Saint veins at most. This body is simply too perfect. With this body, it's only a matter of time before I return to my peak. No, you can completely surpass me when I was at my peak." De Yong reached out and gently stroked his body. The more he touched it, the more he liked it. He said with an intoxicated expression. Seeing De Yong's actions, Duan Lingtian felt goosebumps all over his body. Was this fellow touching himself? Pervert. Too perverted. Boy, since you've helped me obtain the body of a direct descendant of the dragons, we're even now. From today onward, you'll cross your bridge, and I'll walk my own path. We'll have nothing to do with each other. Soon after, De Yong stopped what he was doing and looked at Duan Lingtian as he said nonchalantly, "Even?" Upon hearing De Yong's words, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes instinctively. "Bastard, you've just obtained a new body, and you're in such a hurry to cut off all ties with me? Hermph. Boy, you have the Devil Seal tablet, so it's better for me to stay away from you. Otherwise, what if you're in a bad mood one day and suppress me again?" De Yong snorted. His words were filled with dread. His soul had yet to fully recover. If he was suppressed by the Devil Seal tablet again, he would definitely die. In his eyes, Duan Lingtian was even more terrifying than a Saint stage powerhouse. He could kill him with just a wave of his hand. Even if he had obtained the body of a five-clawed devil dragon, possessed unparalleled innate talent, and had a smooth cultivation path in the future, he was still a devil cultivator after all. As a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator, he had no way of fighting back against the Devil Seal tablet in Duan Lingtian's hand. The Devil Seal tablet activated by an innate stage martial cultivator could easily suppress a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator. "I won't stop you if you want to leave. However, I hope you can help me clean up the mess," Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. "Clean up the mess? Clean up what mess?" De Yong was stunned. "I killed the original island master of Half Moon Island, De Yong, and you took his body. Although he's a five-clawed devil dragon, he must have had other five-clawed divine dragons secretly helping him since he was able to leave this place alive. If we don't clean up this mess properly, what if the five-clawed divine dragon behind him comes looking for us? You used to be a Saint stage powerhouse in the Tao Martial Saintland. Don't tell me you don't know how powerful an adult five-clawed divine dragon is?" Duan Lingtian said as he glared at De Yong. "Why do you care so much? We'll just leave. Don't tell me you're afraid the five-clawed divine dragon will find us?" De Yong said nonchalantly. The Tao Martial Saint Land was so big. He did not believe the adult five-clawed divine dragon would be able to find them, unless all the dragons made a move. However, this matter was related to the five-clawed devil dragon. He believed the five-clawed divine dragon would not dare to alarm all the dragons. In fact, the five-clawed devil dragon was a taboo to the dragons. Even if others did not kill it, the dragons would not let it go. "We can leave, but what about my sect? If the five-clawed divine dragon really wants to pursue the matter, it'll definitely implicate my sect," Duan Lingtian said with a frown. "You're so troublesome. Forget it. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll help you clean up. Tell me, what do you want me to do?" De Yong said impatiently. "You just have to continue to pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island," Duan Lingtian said. "Pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island?" De Yong frowned. "Boy, I don't want to stay on Half Moon Island any longer. The Dao Martial Saint Land is where I'm going next. I know. Duan Lingtian nodded. I'm not asking you to stay on Half Moon Island any longer. You just have to pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island. As long as you explain yourself to the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island and leave, I don't care where you go. You want me to pretend to be the island master of Half Moon Island and leave as the island master of Half Moon Island? In that case, even if the 5-clawed divine dragon comes looking for me in the future, he'll think that I've left on my own accord? Di Yong asked. That's right. Duan Lingtian nodded. That's the only way I won't anger the 5-clawed divine dragon. Since the 5-clawed divine dragon is willing to risk being punished by the dragons to bring Di Yong away from the Dao Martial Saint Land, he must have a close relationship with Di Yong. I even suspect that the 5-clawed divine dragon might be Di Yong's parents. Duan Lingtian continued, Bah, nobody has the right to be my parents, not even the 5-clawed divine dragon. Di Yong said with dissatisfaction. I'm talking about Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island whom I've killed, not you. Duan Lingtian said angrily, How about this? Go and look for the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island now, and tell them that I'll be your direct disciple and hand Half Moon Island over to me. Moreover, ask them to swear on the 9 heavenly tribulation that they'll be loyal to me and not be disloyal. As for you, you can go to the Dao Martial Saint Land on your own after you've told them everything. Duan Lingtian continued to tell Di Yong. This was a plan that he had come up with long ago. He wanted to control Half Moon Island, the leader of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands. Half Moon Island was undoubtedly a good place for him. The Supreme Grade Origin Stone Reserve buried deep underground was twice as many as the Supreme Grade Origin Stone Reserve buried in the Hidden Fog Island. The cultivation environment here could be said to be the best outside of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Naturally, this was what Han Shu and I had told Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian planned to move Lingtian's sect here after he had taken control of Half Moon Island. With Half Moon Island as their base, the strength of the people from Lingtian's sect would definitely rise rapidly. Han Shu and I also clapped her hands and applauded Duan Lingtian's plan. Boy, you're really greedy. You actually want to take over this island. Di Yong said as he stared deeply at Duan Lingtian. Greedy? Duan Lingtian glanced at Di Yong in disdain. Speaking of greedy, how can I compare to you? You're occupying the body of a 5-clawed devil dragon. With its body, you can even open more than 70 saint veins. I wonder if there's anyone in the Dao Martial Saint Land who can open more saint veins than you, Duan Lingtian said. Haha, that's true. With this 5-clawed devil dragon's body, I'll definitely enter the top 10 of the Supreme Saint ranking. No, top 5. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Di Yong laughed out loud. Top 5? Is that all you've got? Duan Lingtian said with disdain as he rolled his eyes at Di Yong. Hermph. Boy, do you really think the powerhouses on the Supreme Saint ranking are easy to deal with? Let me tell you, even in my era, the powerhouse who opened the most saint veins only managed to get into the 7th place on the Supreme Saint ranking. Di Yong said, There are many powerhouses in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Saint veins have a huge impact on one's strength. However, other aspects also have a huge impact on one's strength. That's right, Brother Lingtian. The powerhouses who are at the top of the Supreme Saint ranking might not have opened the most saint veins in the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, the number of saint veins they opened is not much different from the powerhouses who opened the most saint veins. Han Shu and I said, I see. Duan Lingtian finally understood. Of course, the gap isn't that big. For example, the sword saint I mentioned before, he opened all the hidden saint veins in his body and opened a total of 81 saint veins. The saint veins in other people's bodies are like a chasm compared to his. Regardless of other aspects, other people are far from his level because the gap in foundation is too big. Chapter 1336. Saint veins could be considered as the foundation of martial and Dao cultivators in the Dao Martial Saint Land. The more one opened, the better. The more saint veins one had, the higher one's achievements would be in the future. Although the person who opened the most saint veins did not necessarily have the strongest ability, he had a great advantage. It seems like the martial and Dao cultivators in the Dao martial saint land have more powerful techniques. They can even ignore the difference in the number of saint veins. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. He was looking forward to his cultivation journey in the Dao martial saint land. Currently, his cultivation base had already broken through to the 6th level Emperor Wu stage. As long as he continued to cultivate, he believed he could break through to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage within a year with the help of the Saint Stones. At that time, he would be able to break through to the mortal shedding stage. I believe in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. The reason why he was confident he could break through to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage within a year was because of Duan Lingtian's unconditional trust in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. The 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique was a powerful technique that was on par with the 3 Lives Rebirth technique that the Reincarnation Emperor Wu cultivated back then. On the other hand, the 3 Lives Rebirth technique that the Rebirth Martial Emperor cultivated all those years ago was a level higher than the top cultivation techniques on Cloud Continent like the Han Bing's God Sword technique, the Starry Sun technique, and the Dark Beauty Divine technique. Whether it was the Han Bing's Divine Sword technique, the Sun and Moon Star technique, or the Mystical Beauty Divine technique, all of them were powerful techniques that could be cultivated to the peak of the Emperor Wu stage. Techniques that were more powerful than them could be called the most powerful techniques on Cloud Continent. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island are outside now. When Xuanai came over earlier, she heard them talking about an early mortal shedding stage, sea monster guarding a treasure. The treasure was snatched by the former Island Master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, many times, but he did not succeed in the end. Duan Lingtian told Di Yong, "They think, as long as you break through to the intermediate mortal shedding stage, you'll be able to snatch the treasure from the sea monster." Treasure? Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Di Yong's eyes lit up. Go and wrap it up." Upon hearing that there was a treasure, Di Yong was more excited than anyone else. He immediately flew out. Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai followed him. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were waiting quietly outside the mountains that were shrouded in clouds. They were not impatient at all. Soon, their eyes lit up. Immediately after, they immediately looked at the figure that flew out from the depths of the mountain. This tall black figure was very familiar to them. Island Master. In the face of the middle-aged man in black, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, including Xiao Kuan, bowed respectfully. Yes, the black-robed middle-aged man was none other than Di Yong. Facing the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island who bowed to him, he nodded faintly. Of course, this was not the previous Di Yong, the Island Master of Half Moon Island. Although his body was still the same, his soul had changed. He was a completely different person. However, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island could not tell. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and Han Xuanai followed him out and stood behind Di Yong. The appearance of the two of them shocked the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. From now on, this Duan Lingtian is my direct disciple. He's also the new Island Master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong said slowly. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were dumbfounded. Did the Island Master not take a fancy to Duan Lingtian? Could it be that he changed his mind at the last minute? The more they thought about it, the more certain they were. I've decided to leave Half Moon Island in a few days and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land. However, before I leave, all of you must swear to be loyal to this direct disciple of mine using the 99 Heavenly Tribulation. Di Yong continued. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island did not expect Di Yong to say this. Horror dawned on them. The reason they were willing to follow Di Yong and be a Vice Island Master was because they were in awe of Di Yong's strength. They were willing to be under Di Yong. However, they were unwilling from the bottom of their hearts to be subservient to a brat. Why? Is there a problem? Seeing that the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island seemed to be hesitating, Di Yong's eyes turned cold. A majestic aura extended from his body and swept toward the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. Pooh! Barf! At once, the 3 of them trembled. They opened their mouths and spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces turned pale. Feeling the increasing pressure that was close to suffocation, the 3 of them could not help but feel despair. At once, the 3 of them admitted defeat. Then, under De Yong's sharp gaze, the three of them swore an oath using the 99 heavenly tribulation to be loyal to Duan Lingtian. After telling them everything, De Yong asked the three of them to lead the way to look for the sea monster that was guarding the treasure. Lord Island Master, that sea monster has been staying in the west all this time. Under the lead of the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian and the other two arrived at the sea region west of Half Moon Island. They traveled all the way west for half an hour. On the vast and calm sea, the five of them stopped and stood there. Enter. After confirming that this was the place, a gentle energy extended from De Yong's body. It instantly transformed into a layer of transparent light shield and shrouded the five of them, including him. Then, he led Duan Lingtian and the other three into the sea region. At once, the calmness of the sea was broken. Vast, rolling waves surged. The waves crashed one after another without stopping for a long time. At the same time, under De Yong's lead, Duan Lingtian and the other three had already gone deep into the sea region. This isn't origin energy, Duan Lingtian mumbled as he observed the transparent light shield around him and sensed the aura that permeated it. Brother Lingtian, this is true energy. Han Shu and I heard Duan Lingtian's whisper and explained. When a martial cultivator's cultivation base breaks through to the mortal shedding stage, a chi pool will appear in his body. His origin energy will also transform into a new energy, true energy. True energy is an energy that's a level higher than origin energy, Han Shu and I explained. Duan Lingtian came to a realization. He was not surprised at all. Where is it? De Yong turned around and glanced at the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island and asked, Over there. The three of them immediately pointed to the side. The sea monster's whereabouts would change every once in a while. All this while, the three of them had been personally tracking the sea monster's whereabouts. Therefore, they knew exactly where it was. Finally, under the guidance of the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian and the other two saw the sea monster. The sea monster was crouching in the depths of the sea, hiding among the algae in the deep sea. An octopus? When they got closer, Duan Lingtian saw the sea monster's appearance clearly. It was an octopus. To be precise, it was an extra-large octopus that looked like a towering mountain. The octopus crouched there like a mountain at the bottom of the sea. Soon, Duan Lingtian's gaze shifted and landed on one of the octopus's tentacles as if he had discovered something. A small pagoda that was as tall as an adult was hovering in the air, wrapped around by the tentacles. From afar, the small pagoda looked very exquisite. Apart from that, it gave Duan Lingtian an extremely special feeling. This feeling was very intimate. Even Duan Lingtian wondered if he had sensed wrongly. Lord Island Master, the treasure is over there. The three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island looked at the small pagoda and whispered to De Yong. De Yong's gaze landed on the small pagoda as well. It doesn't look any different. You're saying that it's a treasure? Han Shu and I asked. Miss Xuanai, you don't know. This small pagoda doesn't look special, but even when the Lord Island Master fought with this sea monster in the past, no matter how strong the force was, it couldn't be affected. Xiao Kuan said solemnly. When the force is 1 meter away from it, everything will be blocked. There's always a layer of force protecting it on the surface. Just like now, the sea monster's tentacles seem to be wrapped around it, but it's not actually touching it. Xiao Kuan continued. Upon hearing Xiao Kuan's words, Duan Lingtian, Han Shu and De Yong looked over. As expected, they saw that the giant octopus tentacles did not touch the small pagoda. There seemed to be a 1 meter square protective layer around the small pagoda that prevented anything from getting close. It's awake, Xiao Kuan exclaimed suddenly. At the same time, Duan Lingtian clearly saw that the giant octopus opened its eyes. Its eyes were as big as a wash basin, and they gleamed with a terrifying cold gleam. As soon as it woke up, it noticed Duan Lingtian and the others. Its sharp gaze landed on De Yong immediately. To it, De Yong was already an old acquaintance. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as the giant octopus moved, the entire seabed shook as though the ground and mountains were shaking. The seawater rolled, causing the transparent light shield that enveloped Duan Lingtian and the others to shake. However, It was a light shield that was held up by De Yong's true energy after all, so it was not affected at all. Humph. In the face of the giant octopus that leaped up, De Yong snorted coldly. His body moved, and his entire body seemed to have transformed into a bolt of black lightning that shot out in an instant. Whoosh! The seawater shook, and a long vacuum water channel was drawn out. It only closed after a while. Rumble. At the same time, a loud noise was heard, and the ground and mountains shook again. In the next second, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were dumbfounded. A hole appeared on the giant octopus's head. It was a huge hole that could fit a person. The hole penetrated the giant octopus's head and killed it. Lord Island Master's ability. After the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island snapped back to their senses, they were shocked. The powerful sea monster that was on par with Lord Island Master in the past was killed by him in just one blow? Isn't this too exaggerated? Duan Lingtian was shocked as well. You're a citizen of Yin Huangland? Suddenly, an old voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears, causing his heart to jolt. Yin Huangland? Wasn't that the name of the land of Hua in the ancient myths and legends of Hua in his previous life? Chapter 1337. Duan Lingtian was stunned by the old voice. It took him a long time to regain his senses. After regaining his senses, Duan Lingtian began to look around in an attempt to find the owner of the old voice. At this moment, he was filled with excitement. Subconsciously, he felt that the owner of the voice must have something to do with Earth where he was from in his past life. You don't have to look for me. I'm in the pagoda in front of you. The old voice continued to sound. It made Duan Lingtian stop what he was doing and look at the little pagoda that was floating in the depths of the sea. At this moment, De Yong was standing in front of the little pagoda. Suddenly, De Yong extended his hand in an attempt to touch it. However, the invisible energy surrounding it blocked De Yong, who was at the intermediate mortal shedding stage. De Yong could not suppress this energy at all. This pagoda is not simple. De Yong's eyes lit up. Indeed, it's not simple. Unknowingly, Han Shu and I had also come to De Yong's side to observe the little pagoda. A moment later, she extended her hand to the little pagoda that was as tall as an adult. After testing it out, she realized that her energy could not suppress the energy surrounding the little pagoda. This energy doesn't seem to be true energy, Han Shu and I mumbled to herself. She was confused. At the same time, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island also came forward to observe the little pagoda. Just like De Yong and Han Shu and I, they could not do anything to the little pagoda and could only watch. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian moved. Origin energy propped up a layer of light shield on the surface of his body. He came to Han Shu and I's side and extended his hand to grab the little pagoda that was floating in the air. Seeing Duan Lingtian's action, Han Shu and I, De Yong, and the rest watched calmly. In their opinion, if they could not do anything to the little pagoda, it was even more impossible for Duan Lingtian to do anything to it. After all, Duan Lingtian's ability was the weakest among them. However, in the next moment, they were all stunned. Duan Lingtian stretched out his hand and reached for the small pagoda. During this process, he did not seem to have encountered any obstacles and easily touched the small pagoda. How is this possible? De Yong and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island narrowed their eyes in shock and disbelief. Big Brother Lingtian. Han Shu and I was also shocked by the scene in front of her. Even she and De Yong couldn't do anything to Small Tower, but it was actually so easily touched by her big brother Lingtian. Duan Lingtian's hand had just touched the small pagoda when it felt cold to the touch. At the same time, a warm stream of air extended from the small pagoda and flowed into his body through his hand, circulating around his entire body. At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt comfortable and warm all over his body. It was so comfortable that he closed his eyes without realizing it. Seeing how Duan Lingtian closed his eyes when he touched the small pagoda with an intoxicated expression, De Yong, Han Shu and I, and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were all moved. Following that, De Yong and Han Shu and I stretched out their hands one after another and slowly moved toward the small pagoda. Soon, They realized that when their hands were 1 meter away from the small pagoda, they no longer felt the pressure like before. This made their eyes light up. They took a deep breath and continued to move forward, wanting to touch the small pagoda. Boom, boom. However, as their hands moved forward in unison, a terrifying wave of energy surged out and entered their bodies as if it was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The two of them were sent flying. At that moment, both De Jong and Han Shuanai turned pale. It was obvious that they were severely injured. Upon seeing this, the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island felt their scalps go numb and they shuddered. They completely dispelled the thought of touching the small pagoda. Soon after, the gazes of the 5 people simultaneously descended onto Duan Ling Tian. They realized that although the small pagoda had released a powerful force, Duan Ling Tian was not affected at all. He was still standing there with his hand on the small pagoda. From the beginning until the end, Duan Ling Tian's eyes were tightly shut. The intoxicated expression on his face did not change at all. It was as though he was enjoying some kind of baptism. What the hell? De Jong cursed. This stupid pagoda only recognizes this brat. It seems like Brother Ling Tian has an affinity with it. This pagoda is really spiritual. Even the 10 great super saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapons ranking in the Dao Martial Saint Land might not be as spiritual as this pagoda. Han Shuanai muttered to herself, perhaps. It's one of the 10 great saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapons ranking. De Jong said as a scorching flame rose in his eyes. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island looked at Duan Ling Tian with jealousy in their eyes. They could tell that the small pagoda was not an ordinary object. What a joke. How could the small pagoda be an ordinary object if even the Island Masters of Half Moon Island could not do anything to it? No matter how surprised the 5 of them were, Duan Ling Tian was currently in a wonderful state. This state was similar to the state a baby would be in before it was born. Duan Ling Tian only felt that his entire body was enveloped by a gentle force. Not only was this force gentle, but it also gave him a warmth he had never felt before. It warmed his flesh, blood, bones, meridians. Everything in his body was undergoing an earth-shattering change as this energy entered his body. Time passed by quietly. Unknowingly, the origin energy in Duan Ling Tian's body began to circulate on its own. It circulated according to the divine dragon form mental cultivation method of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. It was as though it did not know exhaustion and did not stop from the beginning. You have a good foundation. I didn't expect to meet a citizen of the Yin Huang land here. Now, I have a chance to leave this godforsaken place. An old voice resonated from the lowest level of the small pagoda and reverberated continuously. This small pagoda had a total of 7 levels from the top to the bottom. After an unknown period of time, Duan Ling Tian only felt a warmth leaving his body. It made him feel like he had not had enough. However, when he opened his eyes and regained his senses, his pupils shrank. What's going on? At this moment, Duan Ling Tian could clearly feel the elevation of his cultivation base. His original cultivation base of Emperor Wu Stage 6 was no longer there. His current cultivation base had broken through to the 9th level of Emperor Wu Stage. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian felt like he was dreaming. What's going on? I only touched the small pagoda, and then a force extended from the small pagoda. Duan Ling Tian's emotions surged, and he could not calm down for a long time. Earlier, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had already fused its remaining force into your body to help you be reborn. At this moment, the old voice continued to resound. Duan Ling Tian could hear it. This voice was the same one that had said he was a citizen of the Yin Huang land. 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? When Duan Ling Tian heard the other party's words, he could not help but be stunned. He felt that this name was familiar, as though he had heard it somewhere before. Brother Ling Tian. Just as Duan Ling Tian began to think and recall, a voice rang in his ears and woke him up. He raised his head and saw Han Shuanai looking at him with a face full of concern. Apart from Han Shuanai, De Jong and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were standing by the side as well. Brother Ling Tian, what happened just now? Why are you the only one who can touch this small pagoda, but we can't? Han Shu and I glanced at the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda in front of Duan Lingtian with fear and asked curiously. I don't know either. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Boy, you closed your eyes and reveled in it for half an hour. What did you discover? Di Yong asked. There was a fire burning deep in his eyes. Half an hour? When Duan Lingtian heard Di Yong's words, he was stunned. So, only half an hour had passed? It's only half an hour. My cultivation base has broken through from the 6th level Emperor Wu stage to the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. When Duan Lingtian thought of this, his emotions surged again. Also, the voice earlier said something about the Seven Treasures exquisite pagoda using its remaining energy to help me shed my mortal body. Didn't my body shed my mortal body long ago? Duan Lingtian still remembered. All those years ago, when he was still in Cloud Continent and the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he'd obtained the 10,000-year stalactite milk from the Seven-Star Sword Sect, and he'd been reborn with the assistance of the 10,000-year stalactite milk. At that time, his martial Dao innate talent had also reached the limit of a martial artist on Cloud Continent. For a moment, Duan Lingtian was puzzled by the old voice's words. Why? Did you discover something? Di Yong looked at Duan Lingtian and asked once more. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head and subconsciously concealed this secret. Subsequently, he looked at the tiny pagoda that floated before him and thought to himself. According to the voice earlier, it's called the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? It would be great if this Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was smaller, Duan Lingtian thought as he looked at the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda that was as tall as him. Practically at the same time Duan Lingtian finished thinking, he noticed to his astonishment that a shocking change had occurred to the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda before his eyes. Accompanied by circle after circle of illusory silhouettes that changed from large to small, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda shrunk and firmly fell into his hand in the end. Holding the tiny pagoda that was only 30 centimeters tall, Duan Lingtian was dumbstruck and couldn't recover from his shock for a long time. Whereas Di Yong, Han Shu and the others were shocked by the scene before their eyes. This pagoda can become smaller? Xiao Kuan, one of the 3 Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, swallowed hard and said in disbelief, I'm not dreaming. Another Vice Island master pinched his thigh hard. The pain that came from his thigh told him that everything before his eyes was real. Although the last Vice Island master did not say anything, the astonishment and disbelief in his eyes undoubtedly revealed his current feelings. Di Yong and Han Shu looked at each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. This tiny pagoda, could it really be one of the 10 great Super Saint weapons on the 10 great Saint weapons ranking? Di Yong mumbled softly. There's indeed a pagoda-shaped Super Saint weapon on the 10 great Saint weapons ranking called the Great Heaven Pagoda. Could it be this? Chapter 1338. That's not right. Han Shu who had just made her guess, seemed to have recalled something all of a sudden. She shook her head and denied her guess. Rumor has it that the Great Heaven Pagoda is in the hands of a current top Saint stage powerhouse. It's impossible for it to appear here. If it's not the Great Heaven Pagoda, then what is it? Di Yong muttered to himself as he looked at the exquisite pagoda in Duan Lingtian's hand. He did not know when he started frowning. He had no clue from the beginning until the end. At this moment, whether it was Han Shu Di Yong, or the 3 Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, none of them noticed that Duan Lingtian's body trembled slightly. At the same time, a gleam flashed across the depth of his eyes. I remember now. I remember now. Duan Lingtian looked at the exquisite pagoda in his hand, his emotions surging. The Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It's the immortal supreme treasure in the hands of the pagoda-bearing heavenly king, Li Jing. In the ancient myths and legends of China on Earth in my previous life, there were various versions of the legend of the pagoda-bearing heavenly king, Li Jing, in his previous life. However, all the versions mentioned the immortal supreme treasure in his hands, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, Duan Lingtian quickly calmed down. Maybe it's just a coincidence that they have the same name. In the past, He didn't believe in the ancient myths and legends of his previous life, because they were simply too unimaginable. However, after coming to this world, his thoughts changed. Moreover, as the saying went, there's no smoke without fire. Since those ancient myths and legends had been passed down, it was very likely that they were true. If the legends were true, then perhaps there really were people in the legends. As a citizen of the Yin Huang land, why are you here? Suddenly, the old voice sounded again and woke Duan Lingtian up. This time, Duan Lingtian heard it clearly. This voice that only he could hear came from the lowest level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. Who are you? Duan Lingtian asked curiously as he transmitted his voice transmission to the lowest level of the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. Me? I'm the one and only three-legged golden crow in the world. The people of the Yin Huang land call me the divine sunbird. The old voice continued to speak, revealing its identity. Three-legged golden crow? Sunbird? Duan Lingtian's heart shook violently, and his voice transmission was filled with astonishment and disbelief. You. Could it be that you're the last three-legged suncrow of legend that escaped with its life beneath Ho Yi's arrow? Duan Lingtian remembered. In his previous life, there was a legend about Ho Yi shooting down the sun. Legend had it that in ancient times, 11 suns had appeared in the sky, and one of them had originally existed. As for the other 10, they appeared later on. The extra 10 suns were actually 10 golden crows, 10 mischievous golden crows. Legend had it that they were the sons of the celestial emperor. When 11 suns appeared, the earth was scorched and the people had no way to make a living. At this moment, a human expert named Hoi acted. Using his unparalleled archery skills, he killed 9 golden crows in succession, leaving only one that fled far away. I didn't expect you to know this. That's a long time ago. The old voice continued to speak, seeming very calm and unperturbed. However, his words had undoubtedly revealed his identity. He was the three-legged golden crow that escaped from Ho Yi's arrow in the ancient myths and legends of Duan Lingtian's previous life. He was also the divine sunbird in the later generations' mouths. You're really the three-legged golden crow? Duan Lingtian secretly gasped and said with some excitement, So, you're also from Earth like me? Earth? The three-legged golden crow's tone was full of confusion. The Yin Huang land is on Earth. Duan Lingtian explained. The Yin Huang land. I left there a long time ago. Even I don't remember how long I've been away. As for the Earth you mentioned, we call it the Yin Huang planet. The three-legged golden crow said, The Yin Huang planet is my hometown. As the three-legged golden crow spoke, there was a hint of nostalgia in his tone. Yin Huang planet? Duan Lingtian was startled. It was the first time he heard that Earth had another name, but this was not the point for him now. How did you get here? The three-legged golden crow asked again. I can feel that your soul has the breath of the people of the Yin Huang land. Your hometown should also be on the Yin Huang planet. I was killed by an accident. My soul crossed over to this world and was reborn. Duan Lingtian said with a wry smile. Can this be? The three-legged golden crow's tone was full of surprise. Obviously, he could not understand Duan Lingtian's experience. How did you get here? Duan Lingtian asked. In his heart, there was a faint excitement. The three-legged golden crow, like him, came from Earth. However, he was just an ordinary human on Earth, while the three-legged golden crow was a powerful existence in ancient myths and legends, with a powerful strength comparable to the immortal gods. He was full of curiosity about how the three-legged golden crow came here. Maybe I can have a chance to go back to Earth. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. I came here with the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda. Before Li Jing was killed, he forcibly tore the space and threw the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda into the space turbulence. The three-legged golden crow recalled. After the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda was thrown into the space turbulence, it was seriously damaged, and I was seriously injured. It was not until 100 years ago that I woke up and began to recover on my own. Li Jing? Are you talking about the pagoda heavenly king, Li Jing? Nez's father? Duan Lingtian secretly gasped again and asked. It's him. The three-legged golden crow snorted. He's a useless guy. That old monk Dipankara actually gave him the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. What a waste of God's gift. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was damaged. Not only was I seriously injured, but the other 6 immortal supreme treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda were also damaged. I don't know when they will recover. The 3-legged golden crow sighed. The other 6 immortal supreme treasures? Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately. However, before he could continue asking the 3-legged golden crow, Di Yong's voice resonated in his ears. Boy, we're even now. It's time for me to leave and head to the Dao Martial Saint Land. After informing Duan Lingtian, Di Yong left. He did not even bid farewell to the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian called out to Han Shuanai and brought the 3 Vice Island Masters back to Half Moon Island. After returning to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian returned to the mansion he had stayed in for the past year and returned to his own room. From the beginning until the end, he did not even have the time to bid farewell to the 2 girls and the 3 little fellows. After returning to his room, Duan Lingtian stared at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand and asked, You said there are 6 other immortal supreme treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? Of course. It's precisely because there are 7 treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda that it's called the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The 3-legged golden crow said, 7 treasures? Other than the 6 immortal supreme treasures, what about the other treasure? Duan Lingtian asked in confusion. The other treasure is naturally me. The 3-legged golden crow said again, I almost forgot about you. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly and asked again, What are the other 6 immortal supreme treasures that you mentioned earlier? The 6 immortal supreme treasures are the Jasper Celestial Sword, the Astonishing God Halberd, the Universe Ruler, the Heavenly Luo Umbrella, the World-Cleansing Horsetail Whisk, and the Battle Heaven Spike. The 3-legged golden crow said, Can you give me one of them? Duan Lingtian asked with a burning gaze. Just by hearing the names of the 6 immortal supreme treasures, one could tell that they were divine weapons. If he could obtain one of them, would he not be invincible? Those were immortal supreme treasures. In the face of a celestial supreme treasure, even the 10 great super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapons ranking in the Dao Martial Saint Land were nothing. If you want to use them, go and get them yourself. They're on the 2nd to 7th level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The 3-legged golden crow said, Get them myself? How do I get them? Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand. Do I have to find a spacious place and turn the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda into a huge pagoda before I enter? When we were at the bottom of the sea earlier, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda had already acknowledged you as its master. Now, you only need a thought to enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The 3-legged golden crow said. A thought? Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hand. With just a thought, he saw a flash in front of his eyes and arrived at an unfamiliar place. It was a spacious and vast space. As soon as he entered, he could feel a scorching aura that made him feel as though he was in a world of fire. After a while, the scorching aura disappeared. At the same time, Duan Lingtian saw a huge bird that suddenly appeared in front of him. It was a huge bird that was covered in golden flames. The biggest difference between this huge bird and ordinary birds was that it had 3 legs. Ordinary birds only had 2 legs. You're the 3-legged golden crow? Duan Lingtian gasped and asked in shock as he looked at the huge flaming bird that had concealed its aura. Yes, the huge flaming bird, the 3-legged golden crow, nodded. This is the 1st level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda was severely damaged after it was lost here due to the spatial turbulence. Currently, only the 1st level has been restored. It's because of this that I was able to wake up. The 3-legged golden crow continued to speak. It was one of the 7 treasures in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, and it guarded the 1st level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. It was also the most important level. If one wanted to ascend to the 2nd level, they would have to pass through the 1st level. You said, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda has acknowledged me as its master? When did this happen? Duan Lingtian asked. This was what he wanted to know the most. He remembered that he did not make the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda acknowledge him as its master. It seemed like one had to drip blood first to acknowledge its master, right? When the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda helped you to be reborn, it had already acknowledged you as its master. Chapter 1339. After communicating with the three-legged golden crow, Duan Lingtian had a rough idea of what had happened. The seven treasures' exquisite pagoda that he had obtained was Li Jing's personal weapon in the ancient myths and legends of Earth in his previous life. It was a top-notch celestial supreme treasure. According to the three-legged golden crow, Li Jing had been killed. Before Li Jing was killed, in order to prevent the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda from falling into the hands of others, he forcefully tore open space and threw the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda into the spatial turbulence behind the spatial rift. The spatial turbulence was very terrifying. Even the person who killed Li Jing did not dare to enter it. As a top-notch celestial supreme treasure, the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda was only damaged but not destroyed. In the end, it came here with the spatial turbulence, an unfamiliar planet. 100 years ago, the three-legged golden crow on the first level of the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda had woken up. As time passed, although its injuries had healed, it could not leave. It was the pagoda spirit of the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda and could not leave the pagoda on its own. In the past 100 years, the three-legged golden crow had never thought that it could escape. Although it was the pagoda spirit of the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda, the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda did not recognize anyone outside of the flame-yellow continent as its master. It could not influence the will of the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda. However, what it did not expect was, after 100 years, it actually met a person from the Yin Huang land on this unfamiliar planet. To be more precise, it was a person who had the soul of a citizen of the Yin Huang land. Not only that, but the seven treasures' exquisite pagoda also recognized him as its new master. At that moment, the three-legged golden crow knew that it had escaped. The three-legged golden crow, who had lived for God knows how many years, was as calm as water. Even when Duan Lingtian mentioned its sworn enemy, Ho-yi, its emotions did not fluctuate at all. However, after knowing that it had escaped, its emotions fluctuated slightly. What a pity. I can't get any of the 6 celestial supreme treasures. Duan Lingtian sighed with a regretful expression on his face. According to the three-legged golden crow, if he wanted to get the other 6 immortal supreme treasures, he had to repair the 7 treasures' exquisite pagoda layer by layer. After so many years, the 7 treasures' exquisite pagoda had only repaired the first level on its own, allowing the three-legged golden crow to awaken. Yet now, the 7 treasures' exquisite pagoda had used the energy that it had accumulated for so many years to help him complete his rebirth. After expending this amount of energy, the 7 treasures' exquisite pagoda was temporarily unable to repair the 2nd to 7th floors. If you can find the materials I need, I can use the flames of the sun to help repair the damaged 2nd floor of the 7 treasures' exquisite pagoda. The three-legged golden crow said, at that time, you'll be able to ascend to the 2nd floor and obtain the Jasper Immortal Sword. What materials do you want? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up. I don't know what these materials are called here. How about this? I will imprint the appearance of the materials into your mind. As the three-legged golden crow spoke, a pair of burning eyes flashed, and an imperceptible stream of light swept out, instantly piercing into Duan Lingtian's glabella. Instantly, Duan Lingtian felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. At the same time, he discovered that there were many illusions in his mind. These illusions were of various materials. These materials included medicinal herbs, metals, and stones. Apart from that, there were also some liquids. I don't seem to have any impression of these materials. Wait, I've seen this before. Isn't this the ethereal spirit herb? And this, I think it's the Mount Kue rock. Duan Lingtian muttered as he raised his hand and took out 2 items, a stalk of grass and a crimson-red stone. How many of these 2 materials do you have? The three-legged golden crow's eyes lit up as he asked. These are all rare materials on Cloud Continent. I don't have much stock on me. However, I can ask someone to collect them, Duan Ling Tian said. At the same time, he took out the two materials. All right, with these two materials, I can begin to repair the second floor of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, I'll need more materials to completely repair the second floor. The three-legged golden crow said, I understand. I'll ask someone to collect the other materials that you've told me about. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Currently, he had already taken control of Half Moon Island. Once he gave the order, everyone on Half Moon Island, including the three Vice Island Masters, would work for him. Moreover, as the leader of the four overseas Saint Islands, Half Moon Island had a strong deterrent force. At that time, he could ask the other three overseas Saint Islands to help him search for the materials. As for Cloud Continent, he had the Ling Tian sect. Currently, the Ling Tian sect was already the #1 sect on Cloud Continent. It had a great influence and could mobilize the entire Cloud Continent to search for the materials. That's right. How should I address you in the future? Duan Ling Tian asked the three-legged golden crow. You're the new owner of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. As the pagoda spirit of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, it's only natural that I'll follow your lead. You can call me whatever you want. The three-legged golden crow said, Then I'll call you Hualao from now on. Duan Ling Tian sized up the three-legged golden crow for a while and exclaimed, I remember. In the ancient myths and legends from my previous life, you three-legged golden crows were known as the ancestors who played with fire. When it comes to playing with fire, no one can compare to you. Duan Ling Tian said, Master, you flatter us. When it comes to playing with fire, us three-legged golden crows can only be considered as the best or second best on planet Yanhuang. Moreover, even on planet Yanhuang, there's one person who can be compared to us. The three-legged golden crow said. As it spoke, the flames on its body soared and contracted, emitting a dazzling brilliance like the scorching sun. It caused Duan Ling Tian to feel a piercing pain in his eyes. He closed his eyes immediately. When Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes again, he realized that the three-legged golden crow in front of him had disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by an old man in a golden robe. The old man was skinny, so skinny that he was only skin and bones. However, his eyes were shining brightly like two scorching suns hanging there. Duan Ling Tian knew that this was the human form of the three-legged golden crow. Hualao, the person you're talking about, is it the god of fire in the ancient myths and legends, Zhurong? Duan Ling Tian looked at the old man and asked curiously. Yes, it's Zhurong. Hualao nodded. His heavenly fire is a flame of the same level as my fire of sun. Because he brought fire and light to the people of the secular world, he was honored by the later generations as the god of fire. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He had also heard of the story that Hualao mentioned. Hualao, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is a top immortal treasure. Even if it's damaged, it should still be helpful to me, right? Duan Ling Tian asked. This was what he cared about the most. As the saying went, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Subconsciously, he felt that the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda would be of great help to him. Of course. Hualao nodded. Although the cultivation environment on the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is ordinary, the flow of time here is twice as slow as outside. Twice as slow? What does that mean? Duan Ling Tian was momentarily stunned. It means 1 day outside is equivalent to 2 days on the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Hualao said, 1 day outside is equivalent to 2 days on the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? This time, Duan Ling Tian finally reacted. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. In other words, I've cultivated here for 2 days, but only 1 day has passed outside? That's right. Hualao nodded. After obtaining Hualao's confirmation, Duan Ling Tian's heartbeat suddenly sped up. It was getting faster and faster. When he entered the first level of the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, he could clearly feel that the cultivation environment here was much better than Half Moon Island. As for how much better it was, he would only know after he cultivated here. The cultivation environment is good, and the flow of time is slow. This is a treasure trove for cultivation. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath and only then did his rapid heartbeat slow down a little. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian asked Hualao about the rebirth. It should be known that he had already completed the rebirth through the 10,000-year stalactite milk. Although the Seven Treasures' exquisite pagoda had used the energy that it had accumulated for many years to help him break through 3 levels in one go and reach the 9th level Emperor Wu stage. However, this should not be considered as a rebirth, right? The rebirth you're talking about is merely reaching the limit of a mortal's body. Right now, even the original body of the little devil dragon that left earlier can't compare to yours, Hualao said. When Duan Lingtian heard Hualao calling Di Yong a little devil dragon, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. That was a 5-clawed devil dragon. He was one of the direct descendants of the dragons, a 5-clawed divine dragon. Hualao, you said his original body can't compare to mine. What do you mean? Duan Lingtian asked. As far as he knew, the body of dragons, especially the body of a 5-clawed divine dragon, was one of the best in the entire Dao martial saint land, let alone humans who were born with weak bodies. Even other powerful demon beasts could not compare to them. Hualao said, right now, his body might be stronger than yours, but that's only because his cultivation base is higher. If your cultivation base is the same as his, your body will definitely be stronger than his original body. In the past, Duan Lingtian had learned about this from the current Di Yong, who used to be Wang Ba. The strength of a martial or Dao cultivator's body was closely related to their cultivation base. It was not only the original body of the dragons that would be strengthened as their cultivation base increased. Even a human's body would be strengthened as their cultivation base increased. However, the improvement of a human's body was far inferior to the improvement of a dragon's original body. Even if a human had broken through to the saint stage, their body would not even be comparable to a 3-clawed divine dragon at the early mortal shedding stage, let alone a 5-clawed divine dragon. However, Hualao said his body was stronger than the original body of a 5-clawed divine dragon at the same cultivation base. How could he not be shocked? Hualao, why you? Is what you said true? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.